Pop and rap are two genres that are complete opposites. One's built for the mainstream, while the other speaks for the streets. However, over the years, music has seen these worlds clash in some of the wildest ways possible. From relationship drama...
Interesting. Eminem.
I met her before and I had respect for her too. She heard a rumor that I was married and then said, yeah, he's cute, but isn't he married though? And I was like, no, you didn't just say that, you little bitch.
Traumatizing moments.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish. But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
My name is Rashad Fashir, and this is when Popstars beef with rappers. One of the most iconic pop star vs rapper beefs happened in the late 90s, when the industry witnessed the chaos between Eminem and Christina Aguilera. See, back in 1999, Aguilera burst onto the scene with her self-titled debut album, and with a chart-topping single called Genie in the Bottle, meaning at just 18 years old, she became one of the fastest rising stars in pop. On the other hand, Eminem was just starting to take over the rap world. During that time, he had recently signed with Dr. Dre, and his breakout album, the Slim Shady LP, was a massive success, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard 200. However, if you knew anything about Eminem, you know that while his music captivated fans, it also sparked controversies. See, in today's culture, people probably wouldn't like Eminem's lyrics since they're branded with misogyny, homophobia, and are dangerously provocative. So how did these two very different stars even collide? Well, it all started back when Christina Aguilera publicly expressed her little crush on Eminem.
I'm looking forward to meeting Eminem, actually.
You want to meet Eminem?
Yeah, I want to meet Eminem. I think he's cute.
Unfortunately for Christina, her dreams came true later that year at the 1999 MTV EMAs. In fact, she wouldn't just meet Eminem at this event, she would even present Eminem an award.
And the winner is Best Hip Hop. Eminem.
You could already see that she was super excited to meet him. However, what happened next shocked the audience. See, in Eminem's acceptance speech, he stated,
Thank you very much. First of all, I don't even know if I want this award. I might just take Christina home tonight.
Fans were thrilled that M flirted back,
She's cute, and I've heard little things that she said about me or whatever.
but not as thrilled as Christina.
Are you referring to Eminem? he's actually been a crush of mine for a while now.
Can you imagine M and Christina dating? That would have been a power couple and probably would have dominated the music scene. And after flirting with each other, the two artists still flourished on their own. Christina continued to dominate the pop charts with What a Girl Wants, peaking at number 1 on the Billboard 100, and her next single, I Turn to You, peaked at number 3 just the following year. On the other hand, Eminem was featured on Dr. Dre's The Chronic 2 album, and he was working on his next classic, the Marshall Mathers LP. Unfortunately though, their love wouldn't last very long. You see, before it even started, fans' dreams of Eminem and Christina Aguilera were crushed, because around the same time, Aguilera hosted an MTV special titled What a Girl Wants, named after her hit single. During the show, she played a little game where she listed her top 10 music videos at the time, and one of them was Eminem's My Name Is, which is his breakthrough hit.
So I picked Eminem, My Name Is, because whenever this video came out, I think a lot of people woke up and were really taken aback by Eminem's individuality as far as his name goes, his style.
While watching the video, she expressed her admiration for M's creativity.
I like this video because it's funny.
He's so many different characters. That's what's really cool.
But on top of that, she still expressed her likeness towards him.
He's got a cute face. Look at his face. It's so cute.
Yeah, he's cute.
During that time, there were rumors going around that the two might be a thing. So Christina took the time to address this in the video.
There's been some stupid rumors too, actually, that are not true as far as he and I go, but whatever. He's a cool guy. I met him like once at the European MTV Video Music Awards in them.
However, what she said next is what ignited the beef between the two artists. See, in this MTV special, she casually revealed personal details about Eminem's private life, specifically mentioning that he was married to his then wife, Kim.
I heard he's married now.
Eminem?
Yeah, totally. The girl that he talks about killing on his record, actually. Yeah.
It wasn't a malicious statement, more so a piece of celebrity gossip. But for Eminem, who was notoriously private about his family, it crossed the line. And she might have liked M's music video, but she didn't really like how explicit Eminem could be with his lyrics.
It's pretty graphic, like taking this girl out, you know what I mean? Like the mother of his child, and it's kind of aggravating to listen to. You know what I mean? It's really, I don't know. Some of his albums kind of disturbing a little bit.
But that wasn't all. See, while discussing M's private life, Christina even talked about his abusive relationship with Kim.
Situations are not cool.
I know that absolute word.
I get a lot of fan mail and everything from a lot of girls that are just in really bad situations, and it's
on top of that, she also shared how she could relate.
I've kind of been around situations like that growing up, you know, and if anything, it's I'll talk about difficult times to try to get other girls. That's why I really emphasize respect.
However, she still didn't stop there. In fact, she also advised her young fans to stay away from abusive men.
Because it's so important, because there's so many girls out there that are just so enslaved, you know, to their guys sometimes who don't have enough self-confidence and stuff, and it's so sad.
And since they were on the topic of Eminem's relationship, it kind of felt like Christina was also taking a dig at M.
Girls out there, you've got to pull the plug on situations like that. I mean, don't let a guy disrespect you and get yourself in a situation where you're being treated less than what you deserve.
Unfortunately for her, little did she know, this triggered Eminem to drop a diss track on her. So what did he do? Well, Eminem was never one to take public comments lightly, and he found a platform for retaliation in the form of the real Slim Shady. The song, which was initially not intended to be a lead single, became the platform for Eminem's frustrations. As he recounted in his autobiography, the label wasn't fully on board with The Way I Am as a single. He told them to give him a weekend to create a track that would work, and by Monday, he had the single up and ready. According to him, during that time, Will Smith was dissing gangster rap, and Christina just added fuel to the fire, saying Christina Aguilera was talking shit about me on MTV, putting me on blast about being married during a time when I wasn't ready for the public to know that about me yet. So I waited just long enough to get new subject matter to get into. Now I had something to talk about. Came in on Monday, recorded it, and was done. The song was loaded with callouts, and his label was definitely satisfied. You see, Eminem didn't fear anyone, as he name dropped lots of artists, including Aguilera, rapping, "You can sit me here next to Britney Spears, yo shit, Christina Aguilera better switch me chairs. So I can sit next to Carson Daly and Fred Durst and hear him argue over who she gave to first." And if you think that's bad, Eminem wasn't done, as he continued dissing her, rapping, "Lil bitch put me on blast on MTV, yeah he's cute, but I think he's married to Kim, hee hee. I should download her audio on MP3 and show the whole world how you gave Eminem BD." This track was first heard when it leaked early on Napster in April of 2000, but when it officially dropped, it peaked at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. Afterward, Eminem would also speak about why he attacked Christina on the song.
I met her before and I had respect for her too. She heard a rumor that I was married and then said, "Yeah, he's cute, but isn't he married though?" And I was like, "No, you didn't just say that, you little."
See, he was clearly annoyed that she was spreading rumors, not the facts.
Doesn't he have a song about killing his baby's mother? She heard a rumor. She didn't know if I was married or not. She just heard a rumor and then put me on blast.
And for Eminem, that was enough.
But I figured, well, since she did that, you know what I'm saying? All right, okay, I'm married. Okay, whatever, that's cool. But you know, you said something about me, so I'm gonna voice some rumors that I heard.
So how did Christina feel about the song? Well, Christina was visibly disgusted by the lyrics. She told MTV News, "It's disgusting and offensive, and above all, it's not true." While Carson Daly laughed off the reference and Fred Durst even appeared in the Real Slim Shady video, Christina felt really bothered.
I just find what he has to say disgusting and just completely untrue. For whatever reason, he has such animosity, it seems, towards me. I don't know why.
Maybe she put him on blast one time.
I don't know what I said to really disturb him, but, you know, whatever I said, I'd say.
In a Rolling Stone cover story from July of 2000, she elaborated on her feelings, explaining that she'd only ever praised Eminem's talent and found the attack uncalled for. She finally addressed the call out in an interview with the Rolling Stone. According to her, she was even asked whether she still had a crush on Eminem, to which she responded, "He's cute and everything, but he's got too many girls after him. Besides, he's married, so I'm gonna stay away from that." Wasn't a diss at all. And if you're gonna be that R-worded to think that it's a diss, then, you know, I'm not apologizing for anything. However, Eminem wasn't just pissed about that. See, he was also upset about Aguilera's criticism of his song 97 Bonnie and Clyde. She explained, "You know what I mean? Geez, fixing up your baby mama and stuffing her in a trunk and shooting her in the ocean with your daughter watching. That's disgusting. I'm sorry. I think the majority of the world thinks that's disgusting. I think it's really wrong of him to diss me like that, because all this past year I've been so positive in recognizing his talent." And just like that, the tension between the two suddenly didn't feel romantic. Instead, their relationship started to heat up. You see, one of the most memorable chapters to this beef happened at the 2000 MTV Music Video Awards. Both Eminem and NSYNC dominated the night with 3 awards each. However, the moment came when Britney Spears, together with Christina Aguilera, introduced Whitney Houston.
Tonight has been an amazing night for the both of us. Yes, it has. Getting to perform on stage at Radio City, meeting Janet Jackson, Eminem. Anyway.
The audience, including Eminem, was shocked at Christina's one-liner, but some of them couldn't contain their laughter. However, Eminem would have the last laugh when he took the stage to later accept an award for Best Video. Back in the day, Eminem flirted with her when he received an award, but now, things had obviously changed.
You know I thought it was about to go down, right? Christina and Britney just came out here. I thought they was presenting the award. So I thought something was about to happen, but I guess not. This has been a crazy night already.
In his acceptance speech, he thanked the people that backed him like Dr. Dre, but also thanked the critics for making his album bigger. On top of that, as he was about to exit the stage, he thanked the crowd and threw in a little jab.
"I'm gonna take this home and put it right between my Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera poster, thank you."
Earlier that night, Eminem had performed both The Real Slim Shady and The Way I Am, walking past Fred Durst and Carson Daly during the performance. So was the beef over? Well, not really. You see, by 2001, the Eminem vs Aguilera feud began to fade. Eminem shifted his attention to other beefs, while Aguilera worked on her image and her music. She released Stripped, an album known for its bold, feminist messaging. However, the track Can't Hold Us Down, featuring Lil Kim, was widely interpreted as a veiled diss towards Eminem. Aguilera addressed how society treated outspoken women and the double standards in the music industry, singing, "So what, am I not supposed to have an opinion? Should I keep quiet just because I'm a woman? Call me a bitch because I speak what's on my mind? Guess it's easier for you to swallow if I sat and smiled." I mean, M did call her the B word many times. She also added that when a woman fires back, men try to make up false rumors about her. And to her, that for sure is not a man to me, slandering names for popularity. It's sad you only get fame through controversy, it's so sad, but now it's time for me to come and give you more to say. Even though Aguilera obviously didn't name drop Eminem on the track, she would later confirm that it was aimed towards him years later, as if it wasn't obvious, saying that she couldn't be happier with the response. What was great was how badass I was at such a young age to then write Can't Hold Us Down. However, this still wasn't the end of their story. In fact, the two would eventually cross paths again. See, just as fate would have it, Aguilera was also a presenter at the 2002 MTV VMAs.
What's up, New York City? I'm here to present the MTV Video Music Award for Best Male Video.
And just like old times, Eminem was the one accepting the award. Feeling a bit awkward, Aguilera announced,
Interesting. Eminem.
Fortunately, things were peaceful while they were on stage. However, what people didn't know was that the two met backstage, and while many expected fireworks, the encounter was surprisingly civil. According to MTV News, walking out of sight of the audience and cameras, Eminem was engaging in a spirited conversation with award presenter Christina Aguilera that at initial glance could have easily been construed as an argument. But despite looking like a heated argument, it ended rather positively. However, once the rapper said his piece and Christina voiced on her opinions, Eminem, who was nodding his head and looking to be agreeing with the singer, opened his arms just as she was about to walk away, and the two actually briefly embraced. And that should have been the end of the story. However, in a shocking move, the beef would be reignited nearly 2 decades later. For over a decade, the beef was quiet. In fact, there were even rumors of a possible collab back in 2011. But then, randomly in 2018, Eminem resurfaced the old grudge during his kickoff freestyle. In it, he referenced Aguilera, rapping, "F Christina with a plastic spoon while I bump some G-Funk and blast some Snoop, because her double G cups are massive huge." And just with those lines, the beef reignited. However, for Aguilera, she was confused on why he would bring up her name again.
That's a question for him to answer. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. I don't.
She classified the move as thirsty.
I mean that's real thirsty. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. That's real in the past.
But overall, you can see that she's tired of beefing with him over the years.
It's not nice to go after anybody, especially a female, and in this business. And now what we're looking at and seeing and things that are coming to the forefront, it's just, get a new gig, have something else to talk about.
You see, back in 2009, Kanye West did something so egregiously insane to Taylor Swift that it later became the start of their decades-long beef. Not only that, but what transpired was so wild that it became one of pop culture's most crazy moments caught on camera of all time. And it all began on the infamous night of September 13, 2009, when Taylor Swift was about to receive another huge accolade to her belt. However, we all know how disastrous it went. So what exactly happened that year? For context, the entire music industry had its eyes on the VMAs, and among the rising stars was of course Taylor, who had just won the Best Female Video Award for You Belong With Me. So she walked up on stage and started her acceptance speech.
I always dreamed about what it would be like to maybe win one of these someday, but I never actually thought that would happen.
For a young up-and-comer like Taylor Swift, taking home the VMA award was a huge deal. I mean, that night was supposed to be about her and her victory, right? Unfortunately, a certain someone had other plans and did something that would be a catalyst for their feud.
So thank you so much for giving me a chance to win a VMA award.
Kanye walked up on stage and surprised everyone watching. Whether you were in the front row or watching from home, seeing another artist do this was crazy. Well, what's even worse was what he said next.
Yo, Taylor, I'm really happy for you. I'm gonna let you finish.
And unfortunately, Kanye West had no intention of giving Taylor props for winning. He instead implied that she didn't deserve the W.
But Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time.
So not only did he sabotage Taylor's moment, but he also dragged Beyonce into it as well. However, it was even worse for Taylor, as she stood there frozen on stage, humiliated after Kanye's actions. And as beloved as Kanye was, the crowd wasn't having it. After all, he just bullied a young artist who was supposed to get her moment. As a result, you could hear the crowd booing him after he just pulled an embarrassing stunt like that live on air. But here's the deal. Taylor still wasn't the established music juggernaut that she is nowadays, so she wasn't really used to the spotlight, which resulted in her being so clueless that she ended up thinking the boos were directed at her. She was so disturbed and hurt by what Kanye did, she, her mom, and even Beyonce cried backstage, with the latter saying, "I didn't know this was going to happen, I feel so bad for her." Fortunately, Beyonce was such a good sport that when she received her award later in the night, she quickly invited Taylor up on stage with her.
So I'd like for Taylor to come out and have her moment.
Although Kanye wasn't a stranger when it came to pulling polarizing stunts like this, the specific instance had a lot of people thinking that he crossed the line. And it wasn't just the general public that critiqued Kanye. His fellow artists also took to Taylor's defense and called him out for his outrageous actions, one of which was Katy Perry, who didn't hold back and cussed Kanye out on Twitter, writing, "F you Kanye, it's like you stepped on a kitten." Honestly, her words couldn't have been more true at the time, because while Taylor Swift was pretty massive as an artist, Kanye was on a whole different level of fame and success. For context, he was fresh off releasing 808s and Heartbreak, a revolutionary album that inspired most mainstream rappers today. He was one of hip-hop's biggest superstars that had a cult-like following and had broken multiple records. So just from the optics alone, it definitely felt like a bigger, more established artist was bullying a promising up-and-comer like Taylor. But sit tight, because Katy Perry wasn't the only pop star who had harsh words for Kanye. She also echoed another pop star, Pink, who just outright said what was on everyone's mind that night. Kanye West is the biggest piece of shit on earth, quote me. Obviously, everyone sided with Taylor, as after all, what Kanye did was inexcusable. And if that wasn't enough, President Obama even chimed in and called Kanye a jackass.
The young lady seems like a perfectly nice person. She's getting her award. What's he doing?
Why would he do that?
He's a jackass.
In an interview following his bizarre VMA moment, Taylor Swift was asked about what she thought about the whole situation.
I was standing on stage and I was really excited because I had just won the award, and then I was really excited because Kanye West was on the stage, and then I wasn't so excited anymore after that.
What makes this all the more heartbreaking is that Taylor was a huge fan of Kanye when she first started making music, but after the incident, the interviewer proceeded to ask her if she felt some type of way towards the rapper.
And Taylor, are there any hard feelings towards him?
Taylor reluctantly answered by saying,
I don't know him, and I've never met him, so.
So were you a fan before?
Yeah. It's Kanye West.
Are you still a fan? I take it now.
You know, I don't know him, and I don't want to start anything because I had a great night tonight.
This led to Kanye slowly losing the approval of the public, who took to Taylor's side, writing, "She has a lot of class. I'm black, but I disagree with what Kanye West did. What he did was very ignorant." Anyway, after seeing the backlash that came with his decision to disrupt Taylor's speech, what did Kanye have to say about it? Well, at that point, he was basically the most hated man in entertainment, and not a day went by when people didn't make fun of him for doing that admittedly brain-dead move. But believe it or not, just a day after doing so, Kanye sat down with Jay Leno on his show and was strangely remorseful of his actions, which is the exact opposite of what fans expected Kanye to do. But before we play the clip, here's some important context that he might have missed. See, Kanye West grew up as the only child of Donda West, a well-respected teacher who Kanye always referred to as his inspiration. She unfortunately passed away 2 years before the VMA fiasco happened, so the host, Jay Leno, was curious to see how Donda would have reacted after seeing him do that to Taylor.
What do you think she would have said about this?
In a surprising twist, Kanye didn't respond with snarky sarcasm, like always. Instead, he chose to answer the question politely and said that he never really processed her passing.
So many, celebrities, they never take the time off, and I've never taken the time off to really, just music after music and tour after tour.
What's even rarer is when he admitted how regretful he was for doing that to Taylor in front of millions of people.
A shame that my hurt caused, someone else's hurt. My dream of what award shows were supposed to be caused, and I don't try to justify it because I was just in the wrong. That's period. But
you're probably thinking that Kanye was just purposely trying to paint himself as sorry in order to gain sympathy, right? Well, you'd be surprised to know that he actually called Taylor Swift to apologize about the whole thing. Kanye did call me, and he was very sincere in his apology, and I accepted that apology. So that should be the end of Kanye and Taylor Swift's beef. After all, the rapper already apologized, and Taylor sounded ready to accept it wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, it wasn't. So you better buckle up because Kanye's infamous switch-ups were about to happen. But before we get to that, what was Kanye doing to keep himself busy amidst all the scrutiny? See, a year after that fateful event in 2010, Kanye chose to lock in and release his comeback album titled My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. When it finally launched, it became the #1 album of the decade with a Metacritic score of 94 out of 100 and a rare 10 out of 10 from Pitchfork. Kanye's big year culminates in an LP that feels like an instant great hits, the ultimate realization of his strongest talents and divisive public persona. And it wasn't just critically acclaimed, it also won Best Rap Album, Best Rap Song, and other accolades at the Grammy Awards in 2012, while selling over 500,000 copies in its first week. Overnight, Kanye went from being the public's most hated laughingstock into being the admired and respected rapper and producer that he is. He and Taylor would have buried the hatchet then and there, but with Kanye being Kanye, he went a different route. You see, he decided to take back his apology and said that he didn't actually have any regrets in an interview with the New York Times. I don't have one regret. So if he didn't have a single regret for what happened that night, why did he go on this whole campaign of trying to apologize to her? Well, according to Kanye, it wasn't due to him feeling bad, but rather He was only forced to do so to save his image. I have, as a human being, fallen to peer pressure. However, after 2 years, the relationship looked like it could have been saved, because the two artists reunited at the 2015 Grammys and looked quite friendly with each other. Kanye even jokingly teased that the two were going to collab on a project at some point. He wants to get in the studio, and we're definitely going to go in. That's not all. He also gave her credit as a musician and complimented everything about Taylor, from her perspective, fan base, and music, which is wild because he did say he had no remorse for the public humiliation that he put her through all those years ago. Taylor herself later spoke positively about him in an interview with Vanity Fair when she was asked about the relationship. I feel like I wasn't ready to be friends with him until I felt like he had some sort of respect for me, and he wasn't ready to be friends with me until he had some sort of respect for me. But hey, I like him as a person, and that's really good. Nice first step. Nice place for us to be. That same year, the two were still on good terms, as Taylor Swift presented Kanye his award at the VMA Video Vanguard. And during so, she had nothing but good things to say about him and his career so far.
Kanye West has had one of the greatest careers of all time.
Although it was a straightforward compliment, a lot of fans speculated that this was a callback to what Kanye said on the VMA stage back in 2009. And to add to that, Kanye showed love back.
Taylor, for being so gracious and giving me this award this evening. Thank you.
If you ask me, this would have been the perfect night for the two to squash their beef. Both he and Taylor were in good spirits and were openly being respectful to each other. Hell, Kanye even sent her a bouquet of flowers after a week. That surely had to be the nail in the coffin, right? Well, not exactly. Although this would have made a great end to their beef spanning years, we're just getting started. You see, while the two remained civil and stopped sending shots at each other for quite some time, that peace wouldn't last for long. Because when Kanye started building hype for the life of Pablo and its subsequent rollout, he made one big polarizing maneuver yet again. That being, he mentioned Taylor Swift's name, but this time, it wasn't in a good light. See, though the album was both a critical and commercial success after winning numerous awards from the Grammys and BET, while accumulating almost 100 million streams in its first week alone, it also had a questionable line from a specific song, which in this case was the 4th track titled Famous, where Kanye rapped, "I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex. Why? I made that bitch famous. I made that bitch famous." Now, the first bar was already out of line, but the second one was about a light fuse of drama between the two, since he basically implied that he was the reason for Taylor's success and why she's quote-unquote famous nowadays. Obviously, fans started raising their pitchforks and got mad at Kanye once again, with others writing how deeply wrong he was for recording them. Imagine spending your whole life writing your own songs and working your way up from a nobody to one of the biggest pop stars on the planet, and someone says you're only famous because they interrupted you at an award show one time. Still, it felt like every piece of criticism levied towards Kanye fell on deaf ears, as he responded by telling them that Taylor Swift was completely fine with the lyrics. In fact, according to him, he even approved of them, tweeting, "I did not diss Taylor Swift and I've never dissed her." Of course, after telling such an obvious lie, fans and other celebrities weren't buying it. Even Taylor Swift's brother joined in and uploaded a video of him throwing Yeezys in the trash. But he wasn't the only one who disapproved of what Kanye did. Selena Gomez also took to her defense and said, "Everybody has their own opinion. At the end of the day, you can just do what you do. She's killing it, and she kind of always has been." But despite being openly disrespected by Kanye West once again, Taylor didn't let that affect her as she continued her meteoric rise to the top. Her album 1989 later won Album of the Year at the 58th Grammy Awards. So she used that platform to respond indirectly to respond to Kanye's blatant misogyny by saying,
I want to say to all the young women out there, there are going to be people along the way who will try to undercut your success or take credit for your accomplishments or your fame.
So Taylor rejected the idea that all the success she had now was thanks to the Kanye incident all those years ago, while saying her accomplishments were done through sheer hard work and grit, not because of Kanye. I mean, it's pretty hard to believe Kanye's statements saying that Taylor gave him permission to use those specific lyrics, right? That's pretty scummy and slimy from Kanye, but he wasn't the only one hell-bent on disrespecting Taylor. His then wife, Kim Kardashian, was also allegedly involved in the situation. That's right, it wasn't just Taylor versus Kanye, it now turned into Kim and Kanye versus Taylor, as she called out the pop star for allegedly lying, reiterating that she did in fact approve of the lyric. She totally approved that. She totally knew that was coming out. She wanted to all of a sudden act like she didn't. Because of that, fans are confused. Taylor Swift know about the lyrics coming out or not? And if she did, why was she so worked up? Well, after hearing what Kim said about Taylor, her spokesperson came out with a statement clapping back. Taylor does not hold anything against Kim Kardashian, as she recognizes the pressure Kim must be under and that she is only repeating what she's been told by Kanye. So from Taylor's camp, they claim that Kim was only being used as a mouthpiece by her husband to lie about it. According to them, here's what transpired. Kanye West and Taylor only spoke once on the phone while she was on vacation with her family in January of 2016, and they've never spoken since. So we finally have confirmation that the two did speak on the phone, and we'll get to that topic later. However, here's a fun fact. Taylor actually revealed that Kanye West tried to manipulate her into doing PR for the song. Kanye West also asked her to release the song on her Twitter account, which she declined to do. I don't know about you, but asking her to upload a song which specifically had lyrics cussing her out and undermining her achievements is a pretty bold move on Kanye's part. But the thing is, he still hadn't told her that he called her the B word on the song, just the part that they were going to sleep together. Kanye West never told Taylor he was going to use the term B word in referencing her. Missing such a crucial detail and trying to play it off is definitely something only Kanye does. So while tensions between the two were escalating, so was their music. Taylor was cementing her status as the pop star of her generation. And if you haven't realized how massive she is in music, to put into perspective, she was pulling Drake level numbers in the pop world. Meanwhile, Kanye's album had everyone flocking to it, not only because of the controversial song Famous, but because it was such a great album as well. Despite that, the tension between the two were still at an all-time high. And with Kanye being Kanye, he proceeded to release a music video for Famous. And here's where it gets worse, as the video is probably the most disrespectful thing he could have released given him and Taylor's beef. Why is that? Well, it's because he showed a clip of him laying in bed with several naked sculptures, one of which being Taylor. Not only did he openly diss Taylor, he also included others like his then wife Kim Kardashian, other artists like Chris Brown and Ray J, and even politicians such as Donald Trump and George Bush. But if you want to know the reason why Kanye did this, according to him, the music video was supposed to be inspired by a painting called Sleep by Vincent Desiderio, framing it as a commentary on fame and whatnot. But even without the context, it still wasn't a good look for him, as every Taylor Swift fan brought their pitchforks out and were ready to take Kanye out. Even her close friend Lena Dunham had this to say after watching the disturbing music video. Seeing a woman I love like Taylor Swift reduced to a pair of waxy made by some special effects guy in the Valley makes me feel sad and unsafe. 1 month later, Kim Kardashian dropped a bombshell on Taylor Swift after she uploaded a series of videos showing that Kanye and Taylor did in fact have a phone call where the two talked to each other. In one of the clips, Kanye asked her about how she felt about the line from Famous, where he said that the two of them were gonna have sex.
I feel like me and Taylor might still have sex.
Instead of being outraged at what Kanye told her, Taylor instead felt honored and thankful that Kanye informed her ahead of time.
And I really appreciate you telling me about it. That's really nice.
Not only that, the 3-minute phone call that Kim uploaded showed the two being on positive terms and speaking to each other as friends. In the call, you could hear Taylor assure Kanye that she co-signed the song, and it'll be nothing more than a laughing matter when it finally released.
You know, if people ask me about it, I think it would be great for me to be like, look, she called me and told me the line before it came out. Like, joke's on you guys, we're fine.
And here's where it gets tricky, because now that we know that Taylor really did hop off a call with him and Kim, who was lying here? Well, a day after leaking the conversation on the internet, Kim posted one more thing sending shade at Taylor, effectively calling her a snake. Wait, it's legit National Snake Day. They have holidays for everybody. I mean, everything these days. By that point, fans were left confused as to who they should really blame. But after Kim posted the tweet that alluded to Taylor being a snake, faced harsh backlash. Multiple fans even spammed the snake emoji on her social media because of it. And knowing Taylor Swift, she wasn't going to take the disrespect lightly. But unfortunately, the damage had been done. People called her out for allegedly playing the victim even though she quote-unquote gave Kanye the blessing to use the line. In response, she took to Instagram and defended herself, writing, "Where's the video of Kanye telling me he was going to call me that in the song? It doesn't exist because it never happened." True enough, that part was not in the phone call at all. Only the part where he said they'd have sex was on video. I wanted to believe Kanye when he told me that I would love the song. I wanted us to have a friendly relationship. He promised to play the song for me, but he never did. She's right. Taylor Swift tried to be friends with Kanye, but given his propensity for crossing the line, their friendship looked dead in the water. I would very much like to be excluded from this narrative, one that I have never asked to be a part of since 2009. Mic drop. Later on, sometime in 2020, the entire phone call between Kanye and Taylor got leaked, which revealed something very crucial. In the call, it was discovered that Kanye said he'd have intercourse with her, and that was the only line she had approved of. For context, Kanye never told her that he'd call her the B word at all. But back to 2016. Later that year, Kanye was given a chance to speak at the 2016 VMAs, and although Taylor Swift wasn't in attendance, he did show her some love. Kanye looked like he was done with the beef and disagreed with the belief that he tried to humiliate her and take her down.
I love all y'all. That's why I called her.
A day after this, Kanye tweeted an image of someone wearing a shirt that had half of Taylor Swift's 1989 album cover and half of his My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy with the caption, "All love." If you're Taylor Swift, you'd have to be awfully confused at Kanye West's mixed signals, right? After all, she was so bothered by the line in Famous that it even trashed her mental health. In an interview, she detailed how messed up Kanye's actions were. "Make no mistake, my career was taken away from me." Taylor took Kanye's betrayal especially hard, because in her point of view, the VMA fiasco was supposed to be long over. That took me down psychologically to a place I've never been before. She was so affected that she was even afraid to answer phone calls. I was afraid to get on phone calls. I pushed away most people in my life because I didn't trust anyone anymore. And who could blame her for this? After all, she thought that she had just had a normal conversation with a friend over the phone. But little did she know, Kanye and Kim recorded it to be used against her later on. But by 2017, their beef seemed to have fizzled out for good as time went by. But whenever Taylor released new music, she made sure to let Kanye know that they did her dirty. On one song titled "This Is Why We Can't Have Nice Things," she said, "It was so nice being friends again. there I was giving you a second chance. And if you think that this line could apply to people other than Kanye, here's more lyrics to support the claim that she was referring to him. Friends don't try to trick you, get on the phone and mind twist you, referencing the infamous phone call that the two had. Yeah, you really can't get more specific when it comes to this, other than name dropping, of course. But as time went on, the two were operating in their own separate lanes and continued to flourish. Taylor released Lover in 2019 to massive numbers and critical acclaim as always, while Kanye toned down his disrespectful antics as he was gearing up to release Jesus is King, a religious album. Even Taylor learned how to laugh it off. In an interview, she said, "I learned that disarming someone's petty bullying can be as simple as learning to laugh. In my experience, I've come to see that bullies want to be feared and taken seriously. A few years ago, someone started an online hate campaign by calling me a snake on the internet, referencing that time Kim indirectly called her a snake, of course. But that wasn't all that Taylor had to say, because after a few years had passed by, she still wanted all the smoke. In her most recent album titled TTPD, she had a song that was weirdly titled Thank You AIMEE, which at first seemed like a weird way to capitalize the song. However, you'll soon realize that this was her way of shading Kim while referencing the phone call incident. Now, while Kim and Kanye had long separated at that point, they had nothing to say in response to Taylor's sneak disses. However, that soon changed in 2025. As you know today, Kanye West is more relevant on social media than in music, and with his one too many outrageous tweets this month alone, he tweeted something directly aimed at Taylor. For example, this one tweet where he blamed her for being one of the reasons why he never got to have his own Super Bowl halftime show. However, Kanye's accusations got even more twisted than that. In another post, he wrote, "I'll show you an example of racism. Justin Bieber and Harry Styles F Taylor Swift from both sides and didn't call me. Implying that Bieber and Harry did this is insanely messed up." And if you couldn't get more disgusting, Kanye even added that he also wanted her as well. "I'm mad I haven't Taylor Swift yet." In response, Taylor has released a statement threatening to take legal action against him. After all this time, Kanye went way too far. Taylor feels like she has no other option but to file a cease and desist against him. This time he has gone too far. His claims are not just false, they're defamatory. This isn't just West gossiping. This is him harassing a woman, defaming her, and intending to cause harm to her and her career. Now, in this next beef, the feud got so heated that one of the artists even threatened to get rid of the other. And we're not actually talking about gangster or street rappers. In fact, the individuals involved are two divas in the music scene, Nicki Minaj and Mariah Carey. However, Nicki Minaj's relationship with Mariah wasn't exactly always like that. In fact, back in 2010, Nicki was featured on Mariah's About My Face remix, and the two appeared together in a music video, where they seemed to get along well and had good chemistry, and this song was big for Nicki. See, during that time, Nicki Minaj was still an up-and-coming superstar. She wasn't the queen of rap yet, while Mariah was already an established pop and R&B icon. But thankfully, there was mutual respect. Well, at least on the surface, there was. And fortunately for this collab, it became one of Nicki's earliest high-profile features and a potential career-launching moment. So, how did the two different artists clash in some of the most heated scenes in television? Well, in 2012, American Idol was in a bit of a slump and wanted to freshen up its panel. So they targeted Mariah Carey, and she was confirmed as a judge in July of 2012 to replace Jennifer Lopez, with whom she had her own rocky history. And from the start, Mariah made it clear that she was going to be very picky about who else would be joining her. However, Fox, the network behind American Idol, decided to bring Keith Urban and Nicki Minaj onto the judging panel that same year. According to Fox, Nicki's an unbelievably captivating international phenomenon who has made an undeniable mark on rap and pop. Unfortunately, reports later surfaced claiming Mariah wasn't thrilled about sharing the panel with Nicki. See, Mariah allegedly didn't see Nicki as an equal in terms of career status or experience. Additionally, industry insiders claimed that Mariah believed that the addition of Nicki, a rapper with a strong following, would clash with their own legacy as a long-reigning pop diva. However, in the years that followed their collab, Nicki Minaj exploded into stardom. By 2012, she had multiple chart-topping singles and a debut album that had dominated the radio. In fact, Nicki Minaj won multiple awards that year, including awards for Best Female Video for her hit Starships at the 2012 MTV VMAs and the Best Hip Hop Video at the 2012 MTV EMAs. So when word got back to Nicki that Mariah didn't want her on the panel, Nicki brushed it off, believing that her past collaboration meant that they were all good.
But I didn't believe it. Like, I heard them saying Mariah doesn't want you on the panel. But I was like, no, I'm friends with Mariah. And I was like arguing people down, like, don't believe everything you read, you're crazy.
On the other hand, Mariah attempted to downplay the rumors at the judge's press conference in New York. She claimed that if there were any feud going on, it would take longer than 2 days to develop. But as it turned out, it would only take 2 weeks. By episode 3 of auditions in North Carolina, the tension was undeniable. Mariah began making snarky, dismissive comments towards Nicki while critiquing one contestant.
When you said you did the country thing, Keith got mad. Did you grow up listening to country music? Do you love it? Is it your passion?
See, during the whole time Mariah was talking,
I agree with Randy that your voice seemed to work well in terms of like, okay, if you were going to sing country music, I could hear that in your voice. And I think you have a really clear, clean, pretty voice.
You can clearly see Nicki either uninterested or extremely irritated. She tried to push back, sensing that Mariah was undermining both the contestant and herself. However, as soon as Mariah stopped talking, Nikki had enough.
Because for a minute I thought it was like a country music debate. Like, I mean,
you were like, where am I in the
why
court
are we
of
like
country?
picking her apart? Like,
See, Nikki spoke up, expressing frustration at how they were cornering the contestant into claiming a genre. She accused the judges of badgering the contestant about stating,
like, because, you know, of a country comment. I mean, you guys make comments about everybody in the pop, you know, in popular music all day nonstop.
Who's you guys?
Not you, Keith. Randy and Mariah. And
Really?
Yeah.
Everyone was shocked, especially Mariah.
Is that what I do?
Yeah, you guys
When
do.
someone says, oh, I thought I did the hip hop thing.
Mariah tried to deflect, but the damage was done.
Hip-hop
No,
thing.
but I feel like we're kind of like, we're going into, are you country?
sorry.
Are you
It's
country?
just that
Do you like
that's what I
country?
do,
Do you like country?
Nikki,
And I
and
kind
I
of feel
sing.
like we're
So
making,
what I'm
what
making
we're making her
comments, I'm
do.
trying to help her.
We're
We're trying to
actually
help her as
making her-
opposed to just
Well,
talk
I'm
about
gonna
her
continue.
outfit.
And one of the most entertaining parts of the audition was when Mariah said this.
Of course, you
what
always
we're
do.
almost
Go ahead.
actually doing is like scaring her into lying. Like, she said what she said. She has every right to say that and feel that. You have a great voice.
And at that point, the conversation had already derailed, and Nikki visibly lost patience.
She didn't walk in here
But-
claiming
but
country.
I knew
She
that.
said, oh, I did the country
But
thing.
then
And I'm
we
like,
kept on
baby, you're a
trying to
country
make
singer.
her claim it, and
I really
But
wasn't.
then we're forcing her to claim something, and I understand.
Unfortunately for Nikki, it looked like she was in a 1 versus 2 since Randy Jackson was backing up Mariah's reasoning.
Well, my view is that we're kind of like making them change their minds.
No,
you know,
she can
what
be
you
whoever
said.
she wants
It's
to be.
asking who she is.
However, Nikki wasn't going to back down. In fact, she'd even encouraged the judges to look at the tapes.
Watch the tape back and you'll understand.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what
In my
you do?
expertise.
Is that what you
Yes.
do?
In my
Yes.
No,
Really?
that's an absolute
So you watch
10,000
the tape
times
back
yes.
Go to Hollywood.
Ultimately, the panel might have recognized that the conversation was getting a little too heated and that the contestant was feeling awkward and scared. So eventually, they decided to just vote to finish her audition.
Yes.
Yay, Hollywood!
All right.
I love
Make sure you wear a
this
hat.
moment.
No matter what Nikki thinks, your voice still fits better in country.
It
See you
fits
later in
perfect in
Hollywood.
country. See you there.
Just trying to help you a little
Yay,
bit.
country.
30 years, a little help. Yeah, insight.
Unfortunately, after several more snarky remarks, Nicki Minaj finally walked off the set.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I can't help her. Maybe I should just get off the piano.
Every word she said was a yodel. What do you think that fits in? That
Let me
voice?
get off the piano.
However, there's actually more to this story. You see, things got even uglier when TMZ obtained and leaked footage of a furious Nicki Minaj snapping at Mariah behind the scenes. Things got so ugly that part of this episode was carefully edited and cut out. Unfortunately, this leaked video confirmed what fans suspected. Things were really getting out of hand. In the video, you can clearly see Nicki didn't care at all. She was going off. If you carefully analyze the audio, you can hear Nicki saying that she was tired of Mariah's diva antics. Mariah, on the other hand, couldn't believe what was going down. And even though Randy tried to mediate the situation, there was no stopping Nicki at that point. The only thing that Mariah had to say was that it felt like she was arguing with a child. But if you thought that was it, things became more serious when just 2 days after this blow-up, Mariah Carey called Barbara Walters for an interview.
Before we went on the air, I called Mariah, and I'm going to read from my notes.
According to Walters, the situation on set was much more serious than everyone thought. See, during the altercation, Mariah felt that she was in fear for her life.
She said that what you heard was troublesome, but that's not what really worried her. She said that when Nicki walked off the set, multiple people heard Nicki say, "If I had a I would."
According to her, a lot of staff members, hairdressers, and producers even heard what Nicki said. So after hearing the threat, Mariah had no choice but to defend herself.
I'm quoting now, but Nikki is unpredictable, and Mariah says she can't take a chance, and she has hired extra security. Nikki has not apologized, but they have since been together at meetings with producers and judges. There was a meeting yesterday morning.
After the meeting, Mariah said that Nikki said that she loved her, but they might need to fight again. However, it looked like Mariah had already had enough, as she responded with, "No, we will not."
At this point, Mariah said she doesn't feel comfortable emotionally, but she will continue with the show because she loves the show and she loves mentoring the contestants.
After Walters put out her phone conversations with Mariah on The View, Nikki wasted no time to fire back on Twitter. She responded quickly, writing, "I don't call TMZ and Barbara Walters because I stand on my own 2 feet. Never needed an army. God is good. Insecurity is as cruel as the grave." But that wasn't all Nikki had to say. See, right before this tweet, she said, "Hey y'all, let's just say that Nikki said something about a gun. People will believe it because she's a black rapper. LMAO. I'll then hit up Barbara and milk it." Then she flat out denied the accusations of the threat. Ironically, no camera or mic heard the comment though. Lol at the struggle. Not even the producers believed you. Say no to violence, Barbs. But if these tweets weren't enough, just a month later, Nikki would drop a track titled Hell Yeah on her Pink Friday. Roman Reloaded, the re-up album. Commercially though, while the re-up didn't blow up in the same way as the original Roman Reloaded, it still made an impact. In fact, in its first week, it sold over 36,000 copies, which is actually very impressive for a reissue months after the original release. However, in the song Hell Yeah, Nikki rapped, "Okay, I'll take it, sign on the dotted line. But I'm quick to check it if she out of line. Shout out Mike Darnell and Nigel, why these bums so mad that the queen on Idol, huh?" And this line was widely believed to be aimed at none other than Mariah Carey. And it was only right for people to suspect that this was towards her due to the timing of the release. And just a few months later, Mariah would finally respond in an interview with Barbara Walters on ABC News. She claimed that she felt unsafe.
Felt like an unsafe work environment. Anytime anybody's reeling threats at somebody, you know, that's just, it's not appropriate.
She also said that adding security was necessary as she was caring for 2 babies at the time. During the interview, they also discussed the recent claims that Nikki dissed her on Hell Yeah. But according to Mariah, she had no clue that Nikki even did this.
Are you the she's singing about?
Don't know. Don't know what she's singing. I didn't know she sang. I thought she rapped or whatever.
Moreover, she added that she felt embarrassed and disappointed about what happened since she thought that the American Idol show was a classic, classy show that didn't need any of this drama. Nikki later appeared on Ellen, where she talked about what happened from her point of view.
And so I went there and I kind of started feeling a little bit of like the shade. And I just kind of like overcompensated by being crazier.
Unfortunately, overcompensating by acting crazier didn't really work. However, she argued that she wasn't trying to fight back.
Not like that, but I just was like, you know, like if you know someone maybe doesn't like you, it's kind of like now you're gonna like really like go in and show, hey.
She explained that she was hurt at first and getting crazier was a rebuttal.
Because it's like a defense mechanism, you know what I mean? Because it's really that your feelings are hurt and you can't believe it, so then you kind of like just compensate with being crazy.
Right. And
despite the feud, Nikki insisted that there's no lingering hatred towards Mariah.
But we're fine. Like, I cannot hold a grudge against Mariah Carey. Like, what people don't understand is that I've looked up to her, like, for so many years. Like, since she came out, Vision of Love, all that, like me.
See, like many artists, Mariah was one of Nikki's inspirations. In fact, she didn't even recall a time when she was bonding with her mother over Mariah's music.
Me and my mother would sing her songs like all day and all night. So I don't know if she's gotten over it, but I have. I mean, like, I'm over there like cracking up, laughing and having fun and like.
So if Mariah was still holding a grudge towards her, Nikki said this.
I don't know, like I don't care.
However, when asked about doing live TV, Nikki wasn't really a fan of that.
You know what? I'm not looking forward to live shows.
why is that?
Because,
Come on, Nikki, let it out.
See, according to Nikki,
I cannot trust myself.
In what way?
At the time, she felt scared that another incident would occur and she'd be painted as the bad guy once again.
Just like if there's a slick comment being made, like if some, you know, I just want it to go well. Like it's about the contestants, we got a lot of great talent, and I don't want anyone on the panel to say something crazy.
So she made it clear that she's not really the psycho that people were saying, pleading,
I am really not a crazy psycho, you guys. Like seriously, please, no, I swear. No, I'm serious, like I'm really not. Like.
As the season dragged on, the two women kept their distance, occasionally engaging in comical banter for the cameras.
We won't let her go to the ball.
Yeah, because I'm Cinderella.
Wow.
I'm Cinderella, darling. Yeah, so act
to the pole or to the ball?
No, but we've switched it,
Just
so
off the
we're
top of your
both
head,
Cinderella
Mariah.
and she's the evil sister.
Nikki poked fun at herself and Mariah occasionally.
Thank you, Johnny Five.
What
Carrie,
I think is...
I was about, see, you are so beat out to cut the kid out.
Y'all were thinking the same
I'm
thought.
about to hand it out to you.
Welcome to the family, John.
However, they just couldn't hide the tension between them.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Carrie.
Name I won't say in case there's little kids watching the show because
Oh,
it's such
sit down. You're dismissed.
Lady.
So Johnny
such a
5.
sweet girl.
See, sometimes it felt like their banter was fake, and they were really just getting on each other's nerves.
But now that you're already, but now when you're through the Hollywood, when you're through the Hollywood, when you're through the Hollywood, oh no, because you ain't got nothing like me. But when you go to Hollywood.
In fact, this wasn't the last time things got heated on the show. See, all the fake love and banter shattered when Mariah took a petty jab during an episode back in April of 2013.
And 14,000 songs. Oh, no. So you must think that I agree with Nikki.
AKA you agree with the
the entire panel in saying.
After a contestant performed a #1 Billboard hit, Mariah pointed out how difficult it was to achieve a #1 hit, implying that not everyone on the panel had had one.
Again, back to the Billboard Hot 100 #1 song, which you just performed, which is difficult to get. Not everybody has that. To their credit, to your credit, you did a great job.
Nikki caught the shade immediately, so she fired back on Twitter, writing, "All the #1s but JLo phone ringing. Lol, I guess I have a personality. Being a secure woman and giving genuine critique still trumps that." The tweet referred to the rumors that American Idol producers were considering replacing Mariah with Jennifer Lopez due to the declining ratings. Unfortunately, Mariah's husband at the time, Nick Cannon, only fueled the controversy even more by claiming the producers fabricated the entire beef to boost ratings, even lying to Mariah about the alleged weapon threat. However, American Idol producer Nigel came forward to deny these allegations and that the feud was very real. In fact, he even called it a nightmare situation, clarifying that Nikki was not the problem at all. And even some of Mariah's fans agreed. For instance, one fan said, "Can we all agree that Mariah was not on her best behavior during American Idol? I've seen the public try and defend Mariah's behavior here, but I just cannot." While another one said, "This honestly killed the show. Producers should have known that they cannot put someone like her who is always in charge of everything in her life on a panel where she's vulnerable." Same thing with Nikki. Neither of them should have been hired for the show. So what happened post the TV show? Well, since their stint on American Idol, Mariah Carey has occasionally thrown shade at Nikki, in the same way she continues to reference her decades-long beef with Jennifer Lopez. In fact, she'd even go on an interview on Hot 97 where she expressed her true feelings about her experience on American Idol. According to Mariah,
Honestly, I hated it because it really.
She added that she was led to believe that she was the first person signed on to the show. However, she started throwing shade towards Nikki again.
Honestly, I thought it was going to be a 3-person panel. They gave me a nice dangling monetary moment.
She probably could have backed out from the start, but she still pushed forward due to being able to work with Randy Jackson.
And I was just like, okay, this is for me, you know, Randy Jackson will be there. I've known him forever. He used to play bass for me. Like, this isn't a big deal. This will be nothing.
However, here's when things got a little messy once again. See, Mariah confessed that she didn't have the best time at the show. She described it as,
but it wasn't that. It was like hell, going to work every day in hell with Satan.
Really? Those are some pretty harsh words, and we all know who she was referring to.
No, I'm just playing. It didn't affect me that much. I was just like, I was disappointed.
On the other hand, Nicki Minaj has stayed silent about the whole beef since leaving the show. Ultimately, it was one of those beefs that no matter what the genre you were listening to, you were aware of it. In fact, even President Obama was aware of the beef.
Can you repair the relationship with Mariah Carey and Nicki Minaj on American Idol? That's what people want to know.
You know what? I think that they are going to be able to sort it out. I am confident. I'm all about bringing people together.
See, he was very optimistic that the two would eventually come to their senses.
Working for the same cause. So, I think both outstanding artists are going to be able to make sure that, they're moving forward and not going backwards.
But when he asked who he liked more, he said,
Mariah, she's actually done some events for us. I've gotten to know her and Nick, and she's a wonderful lady. So, Nikki, I don't know, but I've got her on my iPod.
Sadly, Obama might have waited a couple more years and see. See, even after the beef, Mariah still couldn't stand Nicki. As in 2016, Mariah appeared on an interview on Watch What Happens Live, where she was asked to say 3 nice things about Nicki Minaj.
Can you say 3 nice things about Nicki Minaj?
Can you?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
You want me to?
Unable to come up with an answer, she just decided to deflect.
Well, it's your question. I mean, like...
Well, I know, but I'm asking it to you. Do you want to plead the fifth on that one?
However, as fans waited for an answer, she said,
I always felt it was more important with that situation to not plead the fifth, but to just stay above the fray, because you don't want to be déclassé. You just want to just move it along.
Fortunately, this beef never really did any damage to their respective careers, especially for Nicki, who was still climbing up the ranks. Unfortunately though, this wasn't the last time a female pop star and rapper beef. When women have issues, they tend to be chaotic. And when it came to Iggy Azalea and Azalea Banks' feud, it was no different. On paper, they were both rising stars in hip-hop. Their careers couldn't have been more different. Iggy, with her chart-topping pop rap anthems, was embraced by mainstream audiences while also being heavily criticized by hip-hop purists. On the other hand, Banks was the underground star, known for her raw talent and unfiltered statements, and so when their worlds collided, everyone knew that it was going to be messy. It all started when Iggy appeared on XXL's 2012 freshman list. Banks condemned her inclusion, referencing Iggy's controversial lyric on her song, Look Out for Drugs. In a series of tweets, Azalea would rant, Iggy Azalea on the XXL freshman list is all wrong. How can you endorse a white woman who called herself a runaway master? I'm not anti-white girl, but I'm also not here for anyone outside of my culture trying to trivialize very serious aspects of it. Sorry guys, but I'm pro-black girl. To which Iggy would reply, seemingly unbothered, don't bother including my aunt name in any of your salty thoughts either, cause I'm blocking that out today. I'm pro-people, period. You can't block my blessings today. I'm celebrating, get with it or kick rocks. Throughout the following year, the tension between the two continued on social media. For instance, Banks would continue to mock Iggy every chance she got.
Whatever, and then, you know, when she raps, she's, oh, band with a chin guy, I win with a shin with a land guy, blend with a game with a land, wham with a game with a jam with a band, with a lamp on a band, with a bam in a band, and I went to Atlanta just to jam in a band, and the game for the rent, you know.
She also continued to voice her disapproval of her. But on the other hand, Iggy would often just dismiss these attacks. In interviews, she would dismiss the claims that she had a problem with her, stating, I don't. Honestly, you'd have to ask her if it is, because for me, if it was never anywhere, because I just kind of thought it was sort of like a bit ridiculous. According to Iggy, people should have been asking Banks what her problem was and if there was still an issue between them. Iggy was chill when she asked about Banks, and Iggy was chill about it. She said that she was unfazed by all the criticism, saying, me, I'm kind of just a pretty chill person. It's pretty hard for me to I always just think what's meant for you is meant for you. So I never really want to be like, you shouldn't like her. But on top of that, she would clarify the beef was entirely her issue. However, since Iggy was still new to the game at the time, she was confused why female artists tend to clash with one another, saying, I don't know why females have a problem getting along with females, period. I feel like it's like that in anything that's competitive, especially rap, because there's this stigma where it's like only one girl can be that girl, it girl, but for rap. But she also realized that part of the problem was the pressure put on her by the environment.
I'll admit, yeah, it's hard. It's hard because of the way that people make it. Like, people do make it seem like there can only be one rapper, and so yeah, it's hard to combat that when there's constantly something like in your ear.
Iggy argued that this wasn't the first time female artists were pinned against each other, and it wouldn't be the last.
Or so many times I see other females be friends for like a certain amount of time, and then they'll fall out, and like all of a sudden this chick is like putting all your business out there, and so it makes me be a little standoffish.
He added that because of their beefs, she kind of just got fearful on connecting with other artists.
What if then I try to be friends and then you diss me and then be like, oh, you're whack and you wanted like a record? Like, you get scared to even ask stuff like that sometimes just because you don't know.
Iggy and Banks' beef would intensify in 2014. Later that year, Banks gave an emotional interview on Hot 97.
Okay, so here's the thing with Iggy Azalea. This is the thing. I feel, just like in this country,
she expressed her frustration with the music industry's treatment of black artists.
Whenever it comes to our things, like black issues or black politics or black music or whatever, there's always this like undercurrent of kind of like a fuck you. There's always like a y'all niggas, like y'all don't really own shit, like y'all don't have shit. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. And criticized Iggy's success as a symbolic and larger systematic issue inside the industry.
You know what I mean? That Iggy Azalea is not better than any black girl that's rapping today, you know?
She even compared Macklemore's controversial Grammy win over Kendrick Lamar and Drake's record to the state of female rap at the time.
And that Macklemore album wasn't better than the Drake record.
But on top of that, she would even personally call up the Grammys.
And when they give those awards out, because the Grammys are supposed to be like accolades for artistic excellence, you get what I mean? Iggy Azalea is not excellent. You know, and
in Banks' eyes, when the Grammys let artists like Iggy win, they were giving out a harmful message for the black community.
And when they give these Grammys out, all it says to white kids is like, oh yeah, you're great, you're amazing, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And it says to black kids, you don't have shit, you don't own shit, not even the shit created for yourself. And it makes me upset.
However, what no one expected was that this interview would be an emotional roller coaster. See, as the interview continued, Banks suddenly couldn't control her emotions.
The basis of modern capitalism is like labor, like really just like the selling and trading of these slaves. They're like huge corporations that are still like, you know, caking off that money.
During the time when race and policing were a huge topic in the United States, Banks expressed her massive disappointment and anger towards the system.
So until y'all motherfuckers are ready to talk about what y'all owe me, whether the number 7 trillion or 8 trillion or 9 trillion, at the very least, y'all owe me the right to my and to not exploit that. You get what I'm saying? Like,
following the deaths of Michael Brown, an 18-year-old who was shot and killed by a police officer, and Eric Garner, another African American who was also killed by an officer, Banks expressed her frustration on how black people were being portrayed.
You have like Eric Garner and Mike Brown and like
and then they throw
Martin,
Bill Cosby.
And talking about Bill Cosby, like what the fuck?
So what does this have to do with Iggy? Well, throughout the issues going around, Iggy stayed silent, and Banks had a huge problem with that. See, she accused Iggy of picking and choosing from black culture like a buffet, but ignoring the larger issues at play. In a series of tweets, Banks couldn't help but call out Iggy once again. It's funny to see people like Igloo Australia silent when these things happen. Black culture is cool, but black issues sure aren't, huh? Then she followed it up by saying, if you're down to ride with us, you gotta ride all the way. Don't just be down to ride black dick. If you with us, you with us. Lol, I'm petty. But it's so true. That wannabe black girl shit makes me want to throw a jar of piss at her. LMAO. On the other hand, Iggy tried the nonchalant gimmick initially, but it looked like she had enough. So she responded by accusing Banks of using social issues for clout, saying, there's more to sparking change than trolling on social media. World issues shouldn't be used as a poor excuse to promote fan battles. On top of that, she even argued that Banks wasn't doing anything to help the situation. Make sure you do something to let your government know how you feel when something is unjust, not just your followers on Twitter. Clearly your concern is finding any reason to promote shade, trolling, fan fights, and memes. I know you guys by now, you don't fool me. But if that weren't enough, the two would continue duking it out online just a few weeks later. See, according to Banks, Iggy was completely clueless about the issues at hand. She wrote, none of this will make sense to her until she herself has the children with a black man and has to deal with having black children in America. The interview was about things way beyond your mental capacity. On top of that, she clarified her emotional interview had nothing to do about her. My tears had absolutely nothing to do with you and everything to do with society and the media in general. Stay out of this one. But Iggy Australia will not play victim and make this about her. I made some very valid points about things that are very important to me. Iggy fired back by pointing out, there are many black artists succeeding in all genres. The reason you haven't is because of your piss poor attitude. And she added that the real problem was her, writing, your inability to be responsible for your own mistakes, bullying others, the inability to humble or have self-control, it's you. You created your own unfortunate situation by being a bigot and don't have the mental capacity to realize yet. Probably never will. However, Iggy still wasn't done. She also pointed out the reason she was getting targeted by Banks was that her career was already falling off, stating, enjoy continuing to bang your head against that metaphoric brick wall and savor this attention. I'm the only way you get any. You're poisonous and I feel genuinely sorry for you because it's obvious at this point you are a miserable and angry human being. Regards. And after all the jabs and disrespect, the tension between the two would eventually cool down the following year. That's because in early 2015, Iggy announced a hiatus from social media, stating that the negativity and criticism she faced online, which could also be stemmed from her ongoing feud with Banks, was finally taking a toll on her. Recently, Iggy had just returned from vacation, and she was stunned to find that her name was being dragged online, ranting, I feel the hatred and pettiness I see online at all times is making me become an angry person, and I cannot be that. Become nasty because of the way I feel I am treated would be a disservice to my fans, and I promise I will try to keep smiling. I just want to have peace, relaxation time without a perv with a long distance lens hiding out taking pictures. Everyone deserves peace. I used to be happy and it's too negative and draining. Around the same time, the hacker group Anonymous threatened to release alleged personal information about Iggy unless she apologized for her perceived cultural appropriation. According to the hackers, there's an X-rated tape of you. We'd bet you certainly don't want it public. Are we right? At Iggy Azalea. And this is nothing. Comply or else. However, Iggy denied any wrongdoing and did not issue the demanded apology. And as if she didn't have enough on her plate, Banks would pile on to her again in 2016 when she released a diss track titled Used to Being Alone, which sampled Iggy's song My World. However, this wasn't a surprising diss since around this time, Iggy just stated in an interview that she still hates Banks, saying, even though I still hate Azalea Banks, I wish I had said it in a way that didn't make people think I was oblivious to the movement. And that was enough to reignite their beef. See, when Banks saw these comments, she immediately took to Twitter, writing, no one talking about you, so you chose to mention me. Wrong move, ho. Mentioning me is the only thing that will get you attention. So it's starting to look like it was impossible for them to mend their beef. However, in a shocking turn of events, a year later, the two artists attempted to reconcile their relationship. See, no one expected that Iggy's new collaborator on her new song would be that of her enemy. But according to Iggy, she was eager to move past their differences, posting a photo on Snapchat to announce their collab, stating, public service announcement, Azalea is going to be on DD. We are collaborating. Burn your wigs now or preserve them in your freezer for release day. And to further clarify her decision, she wrote on Twitter, I don't expect you guys to understand why I would collaborate with someone who has publicly said they hope I die. This has been something extremely negative for so long. If there's a way to make it positive and also be creative together, I'm here for it. So it seems like they finally come to a truce. But you know who hasn't come to a truce? Nicki Minaj and Miley Cyrus. When pop stars and rappers collide, it tends to get messy. On top of that, it can be lengthy. For instance, Nicki Minaj and Miley Cyrus's rocky history has stretched over the years, filled with passive-aggressive jabs and disses. But why exactly are they beefing, and what exactly happened? Well, it all began on Halloween night in 2012. Miley Cyrus, who was then transitioning from Disney darling Hannah Montana to edgy and darling pop artist, tweeted out a photo of herself dressed as Nicki Minaj. Complete with the yellow wig, matching tattoos, and exaggerated butt pads, Cyrus captured the photo, writing, "@Nicki Minaj, you a stupid #stupid." Minaj responded lightly at the time. During an interview, she claimed that she was planning to dress as Miley for Halloween too. "I think I'm probably gonna go as Miley Cyrus because she's going as me. I just saw that on Twitter she's doing me. Maybe I should get the short buzz cut like Miley. I feel like doing it." However, no photo evidence ever surfaced, and while it came off as playful or as admiration on the surface, this would lay the foundation for a far more controversial relationship in the following years. See, just the following year, Miley added an unexpected comment to a Billboard cover story that wouldn't sit well with Nicki Minaj. Speaking on her musical evolution, Miley said, "A lot of people wanted to try and make me the white Nicki Minaj. That's not what I'm trying to do. I love hood music, but my talent is as a singer." Unfortunately, many fans misinterpreted the statement. See, it felt like she was really trying to distance her career from rap culture as she immersed herself in it through collaborations with hip-hop producers like Mike Will Made It, who was one of Nicki's regular collaborators at the time. On top of that, it didn't help Miley's case that she was embracing hip-hop's aesthetics, and that didn't go unnoticed. However, just the following year, things started to heat up. Back in the summer of 2014, Nicki had just dropped her now iconic cover art for her single, Anaconda. But out of nowhere, Miley Cyrus decided to Photoshop her own face onto Nicki's body and post it as her Twitter avatar. She even adjusted the skin tone to appear more quote-unquote natural. Now, here's where things start to get juicy. See, Nicki wasn't impressed about this photo and decided to repost it on Instagram, asking, "Give me one good reason why Miley made this her Twitter avatar. #Anaconda on iTunes." But it didn't stop there. See, Miley created another meme, this time swapping Minaj's Anaconda pose with a picture of Hannah Montana, even changing the title of the album cover from Anaconda to Hanaconda, captioning it, "Yes, yes, 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 @Nicki Minaj." But Nicki wasn't gonna let that slide, so she also reposted this photo, this time captioning it, "No chill zone." Unfortunately for Miley, it looked like she picked a fight that she really wasn't ready to handle. You see, she might have used the attention as an opportunity to encourage followers to vote for Miley Cyrus in the MTV Music Video Awards, but Nicki Minaj would body her hit single, Wrecking Ball. And Wrecking Ball did good. In fact, it debuted at number 50 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and then rose to number 1, becoming Miley's first chart topper. Additionally, the song remained at the top for a week before returning to the top spot after 9 weeks. However, when it comes to music videos, Anaconda would soon surpass Miley's Wrecking Ball for most views, racking up a staggering 19.6 million in 24 hours on Vivo. But Anaconda did great music-wise too. See, it might have debuted at number 19, but it soon rose to number 2, becoming Nicki's highest charting single of all time. During that time, there was no question that there was tension between the two. You see, during the MTV VMAs that same month, she was asked how she felt when Anaconda broke her Vivo record. And according to Miley, "I ain't got that ass. I ain't bring that body. I can bring that Wrecking Ball, but I can't bring that ass, not that Anaconda." And with a comment like that, you'd expect the beef would be all over, right? Well, surprisingly, just months after the online jabs, the two appeared on good terms again at the 2015 Grammy Awards.
We are very honored to introduce our next performer, not because she's a bad troublemaking international star, but because she knows who she is and she expresses herself with strength and style.
For a brief moment, peace was actually attainable.
Absolutely. We all love to see women on top. And as the record shows, this next powerful woman is always on top. How does she do it? We'll tell you how. She does it all by living for love. Standing
side by side, they introduced Madonna together and appeared to be getting along.
All right, so let's all show some love and give it up for our Madonna! She made me call her that.
But the real turning point came later that summer, when Minaj's Anaconda was snubbed for a Video of the Year nomination at the 2015 MTV VMAs, and she took to Twitter to vent her frustration. Minaj criticized the industry's biases towards slim, white pop stars. Though Taylor Swift took this personally and publicly responded. We'll talk about that later on, since it was Miley, who was that year's VMA host, who would truly escalate the situation. In an interview with the New York Times, just days before the VMAs, Miley dismissed Minaj's frustration. What I read sounded very Nicki Minaj, which, if you know Nicki Minaj, is not too kind. It's not very polite. I think there's a way you speak to people with openness and love. You don't just have to start this pop star against pop star war. On top of that, she implied that Nicki was just simply bitter and jealous about missing out on a nomination. Not that this is jealousy, but jealousy does the opposite of what you want it to. That's a yoga mantra. People forget that the choices they make and how they treat people in life affect you in a really big way. And this comment would set up one of the most infamous moments in the beef. See, when the day of the VMAs came, everything exploded. After winning Best Hip Hop Video for Anaconda, Nicki Minaj took the stage, and while accepting her award, she decided to check Miley live on air.
And now, back to this that had a lot to say about me the other day in the press. Miley, what's good?
But props to Miley for keeping her composure. Seemingly unfazed, she responded by saying,
Hey, we're all in this industry. We all do interviews, and we all know how they manipulate. Nikki, congratulations.
However, even though she tried her best to get her show back on track, the camera then panned back to Nikki, irritated, which only made Miley let out a huge sigh.
And just because the VMAs have already started doesn't mean that the voting is done.
But Miley couldn't take it, so she decided to take one last jab at Nikki.
I lost this award back in 2008, and I was fine with it. Whatever, because it's no big deal. It's just an award, and I persevered. So here are the nominees still vying for your vote. Congratulations, Nikki.
The tension in the room was undeniable, and the crowd was stunned. The moment instantly became one of the most memorable in VMA history, and a viral pop culture reference that fans still quote today. In an interview with the New York Times, Nikki finally addressed the drama that happened. According to her, the fact that you feel upset about me speaking on something that affects black women makes me feel like you have some big balls. You're in videos with black men, and you're bringing out black women on your shows, but you don't want to know how black women feel about something that's so important? See, she saw Miley as a hypocrite, stating, come on, you can't want the good without the bad. If you want to enjoy our culture and our lifestyle, bond with us, dance with us, have fun with us, work with us, rap with us, then you should also know what affects us, what is bothering us, what we feel is unfair to us. You shouldn't want to know that. Fortunately though, after the whole VMAs fiasco, the beef would cool down for a bit. However, nearly 2 years later, the two crossed paths again at the 2017 Billboard Music Awards. Cyrus performed her new single, Malibu, signaling a softer country-tinged pivot in her career. Nikki was seen smiling and clapping in the audience, though social media immediately debated whether her reaction was genuine or sarcastic. Fans on both sides dissected the footage frame by frame, keeping the lingering tension between the two alive. However, some fans thought that Nikki was sincere about the moment, with one fan writing, "I never forgot when Nikki clapped with a proud smile." See, it was starting to look like the two had finally squashed the beef. In what appeared to be a peace offering, Miley uploaded a now deleted Instagram video of herself dancing to Minaj's track, Chun-Li. Nikki reposted it, and Miley commented, "What's good?" with a hard-eyed cat emoji. And for a brief moment, it seemed like the two were finally friends. Unfortunately, that truce didn't last long. You see, back in 2019, Miley Cyrus released an EP titled She Is Coming, and on the track Catitude, she reignited the beef with the lyrics, "I love you Nikki, but I listen to Cardi." This wasn't just a subtle jab. Given the animosity between Nikki and Cardi, which even included an actual physical altercation in New York, this line struck a nerve, and it didn't take long for Nikki to respond.
Well, hold on, Purdue chicken can never talk about Queen.
Talk about it.
But I do notice a lot of Purdue chickens recently have been trying to say the Queen's name for clout.
On a Queen radio show shortly after, she didn't hold back.
And that's always been happening. And that's what she did in the first place. And then she cried, the white girl cried and made black girls seem like she was a bad guy.
On top of that, she even accused Miley of getting intimate with her producer.
In the first place, she disrespected me in a magazine article for no reason. I had just seen her after she was sucking Mike Will's in the studio.
At that point, there was just no stopping her.
You sucked all that only to come out looking like a Purdue chicken on the stage and then got mad and went back to country music. Shut your stupid ass.
Even though Miley never publicly responded to Nikki's allegations, fans already knew that the beef was back on, and it would be harder now to just let it fade into another awkward silence. And while neither artist has formally reconciled, one thing's for sure, Miley What's Good remains one of hip-hop and pop culture's most iconic moments. But speaking of iconic moments, these next artists have had their fair share. And I'm talking about none other than Lana Del Rey and Azalea Banks. It always gets ugly when a pop star clashes with a rapper. And things weren't so different when an indie pop icon beefed with one of the wildest female rappers back in the day. You see, we all know that the last female rapper you'd probably want to go toe-to-toe with back in the day was Azalea Banks, since once you got her going, she just unleashed hell. Unfortunately for Lana Del Rey, she didn't even provoke Banks, but she still suffered her wrath. So what exactly happened? Well, back in 2018, Lana initially criticized Kanye West's support of Donald Trump, commenting on Kanye's Instagram, writing, "Trump becoming our president was a loss for the country, but your support of him is a loss for the culture. I can only assume you relate to his personality on some level. Illusions of grandeur, extreme issues of narcissism, none of which should be a talking point if we weren't speaking about the man leading our country." So where does Azalea come in? Lana didn't even name drop her or take a subtle jab, right? Well, Banks' problem was that Lana was trashing her precious president. So, in typical Azalea Banks fashion, she took to Twitter and ranted there. She accused Lana of exploiting political issues for clout. Wow, okay Lana, this would be cute if you were consistent with your outrage and refused to collab with A$AP Rocky, who is physically woman too. To me, this just looks like the typical white woman using a weakened target to pretend to be an ally. But if you know Lana Del Rey, she isn't exactly the type of person who backs off either. See, Lana responded directly, challenging Banks, writing, "You know the Addy, pull up anytime. Say it to my face, but if I were you, I wouldn't." It looked like Lana wasn't planning to back down as she started to get physical, tweeting, "I will not F you the F up, period." However, she wasn't done just that. And she also added, "Banks, you could have been the greatest female rapper alive, but you blew it. Don't take it out on the only person who had your back." Of course, Banks had to clap back. So what did she do? She posted a photo of Lana to mock her appearance, writing, "Let's talk about arm workouts today. Example, this is an example of an aging white woman who got work done on her face and none done on her body where she needed it most. Let's walk her through some upper arm workouts." To which Lana countered, "I'll send you my surgeon's number and a good psychiatrist I know in LA. Your psych meds aren't working. Hashtag you need a new cocktail." After the heated interaction, Banks continued to body shame Lana on her Instagram, but the beef would die down once Lana stopped replying. See, Banks might have been unapologetic and blunt, but Lana also had a sharp mouth, because just years later, the beef would be reignited due to a Lana Del Rey rant. Around May of 2020, Lana Del Rey took to Instagram to express her frustration over criticism she received for allegedly glamorizing abuse in her music, stating, "Now that Doja Cat, Ariana, Camila, Cardi B, Kehlani, and Nicki Minaj and Beyonce have had #1s with songs about being sexy, wearing no clothes, effing, cheating, etc., could I please go back to singing about being embodied, feeling beautiful by being in love, even if the relationship is not perfect, or dancing for money, or whatever I want, without being crucified or saying that I'm glamorizing abuse?" From her perspective, since the industry was finally embracing explicit content, she argued that the flack she got from her music was unwarranted. Unfortunately though, it only gave her more unwarranted criticism. See, people thought she was singling out women of color and undermining their capabilities, and just like that, chaos erupted. The comment sections exploded, Twitter was on fire, and people were convinced that her career was over. See, fans were accusing Lana of coming for black women in music, especially since almost all the artists she named were black, but on top of that, the timing of it all made it worse. At the very moment, Doja Cat and Nicki Minaj were literally sitting at #1 on the Billboard charts with Say So. Black women were finally claiming the top of the charts together, and here was Lana essentially implying that they were being celebrated for the very thing she was criticized for. And even Lana Del Rey fans had a difficult time defending her. Some argue that she wasn't really targeting black women. Instead, she was going after the industry. But dropping their names destroyed her main message, and it came off as jealousy. One Lana fan noted, "She could have done without the name dropping. That's what bothers me the most. I'm a pretty big fan of hers, but this seemed like a low blow. Those women had their own struggles. No need for the comparison in my opinion." On the other hand, one of the main points fans were giving was that Lana targeted the wrong artists. See, almost all of the artists she mentioned had been criticized for their music as well. One fan stated, "What's wild to me is that the claim that Beyonce, Nicki Minaj, Cardi, etc. have never received backlash for being too sexual and that she's the only one who has ever been critiqued. Like I remember Beyonce being considered too sexual back when she was still in Destiny's Child 15 years ago. Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, and Kehlani get called all types of names stuff regularly." So what did Lana have to say about all this criticism? Well, she didn't hold back in her response. She started by calling out critics, making it clear that she felt misunderstood, writing, "To be clear, because I know you love to twist things, I love these singers and know them. That is why I mention them. I would also like to have some of the same freedom of expression without judgment of hysteria." There you go. However, she wasn't done and addressed the racial accusations head on, emphasizing that her post wasn't about race. By the way, the singers I mentioned are my favorite singers, so if you want to try and make a bone to pick out of that, like you always do, be my guest. She added that, "Despite the criticism, the underlying issue was about the freedom for women to express themselves. It doesn't change the fact that I haven't had the same opportunity to express what I wanted to express without being completely decimated, and if you want to say that that has something to do with race, that's your opinion, but that's not what I was saying." And in her final comments, things started to get heated. "Bro, this is sad to make it about a woman of color issue. When I'm talking about my favorite singers, I could have literally said anyone, but I picked my favorite effing people." And finally, she explained that this was the problem with society today. Sadly though, even with this clarification, many felt that her comments reflected a lack of awareness about the challenges faced by black women in the music industry, and by then, the damage was already done. Funny enough, none of the artists Lana mentioned publicly responded. Not a tweet, not a post, not even a shady subtweet. Silence. And in a way, that made it even worse for her. While she kept doubling down, they stayed booked, busy, and unbothered. Beyonce went on to release her visual album Black is King, Cardi B dropped WAP with Megan Thee Stallion and broke the internet, Nicki Minaj took her well-deserved #1, and Doja Cat kept stacking hits. But you know who did respond? Azalea Banks, of course. Unfortunately for Lana, this only gave her arch nemesis more ammo to drag her name. During all the chaos, Banks decided to jump in and say, "Typical white woman jealous of the power of black women's sexuality, feeling threatened and victimized by the fact that her whole fan base is fat, with blonde hair, and her 40-year-old Lolita shtick makes not a single hard." She named nothing but women of color. Jealous woman. However, Banks didn't stop there. Just months later, a photo surfaced online showing Lana shopping in LA. However, in this photo, Lana added a little extra weight, and for Banks, that was enough. She took to Instagram to body shame Lana.
You gotta stop eating them taquitos and them little 7-Eleven pizzas and all that other shit bitch. I see you coming out of 7-Eleven with that fucking spring water. What else you got in that bag, fat girl? Huh? What else you got in that bag?
Went all out.
What other goodies you got in that bag, fat girl? Damn. That quarantine just got a bitch snacking, huh? You just in there snacking, putting mayonnaise on the grilled cheese and butter.
She really didn't hold back.
Damn, what happened to you? What happened to you? And what is that little bulb you have in between your eyes?
In fact, she'd even bring up their past beef.
Oh my God, girl. It's like, nah, you like curdled up as soon as you decided to come against me. You look horrible. You look horrible, sis. You gotta figure that out.
She added that what happened to Lana was karma for beefing with her even after time had passed. And to this day, Azealia Banks is still body shaming and trash talking Lana Del Rey. As recently as April 2025, Banks retweeted a photo of Lana, writing, "Wow, Lana's getting Julia Roberts old. The neck is a wild giveaway. Sheesh. She needs some sea moss, the granny linens and fresh injection sites." So clearly they never made up. Now, on the surface, our next two artists couldn't be more different. One is considered by many to be the queen of pop with a massive and loyal fan base, and on the other hand, there's the queen of rap, Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj. So how did the music industry's two most powerful women run into issues with each other? Well, to understand that, we have to go back to the 2015 MTV Video Awards. See, when the nominations for the VMAs were announced at the time, Nicki Minaj was riding high off the success of her massive single, Anaconda. In fact, the music video wasn't just a viral sensation, it even broke records. It ultimately racked up 19.6 million views in just 24 hours, and fans loved the video for its provocative and empowering theme, if you know what I mean. However, when the VMA nominations were announced, Anaconda was nowhere to be found in the Video of the Year category. So how did a video like Anaconda, which was culturally groundbreaking and broke statistical records, get snubbed? See, Anaconda's slot was instead filled by videos like Taylor Swift's Bad Blood, Beyonce's 7-Eleven, and Ed Sheeran's Thinking Out Loud. And for Nicki, this wasn't just a snub, it was so much deeper than that. So how did she retaliate? Well, Nicki wasted no time airing out her frustration. She wrote on Twitter, "If your video celebrates women with very slim bodies, you will be nominated for Video of the Year." She also pointed out that Anaconda was a pop culture phenomenon and broke records, but it still got overlooked. When the other girls drop a video that breaks records and impacts culture, they get that nomination. And even though Nicki didn't drop any names, it didn't take a genius to realize that the girls she was referring to were a white pop star who dominated the award shows. And in this case, it was none other than Taylor Swift. In a surprising move though, Taylor responded directly to Nicki's tweets, seemingly taking them as a personal attack, tweeting, "At Nicki Minaj, I've done nothing but love and support you. It's unlike you to pit women against each other. Maybe one of the men who took your slot." However, Nicki was caught off guard, because all this time, she wasn't really talking about Taylor at all, writing, "Huh, you must not be reading my tweets. Didn't say a word about you. I love you just as much, but you should speak on this, at Taylor Swift 13. You see, in Nicki's point of view, she wasn't just dissing anyone, she was speaking about race and industry bias, and what was meant to be just a critique of systematic issues became a headline for all the wrong reasons. You see, with a quick exchange like that, the media immediately framed it as a Nicki vs. Taylor beef, completely ignoring the context of Nicki's main points. So she tweeted out another message directed to Taylor, stating, "At Taylor Swift, I'm still confused as to why you tweeted me when I made it abundantly clear." Attached to this was another tweet stating, "It's not even any shade to other artists, it's just that Nicki is getting snubbed for doing the same thing they're winning awards for." And of course, the internet, as it always do, split into two. Swifties came to Taylor's defense, accusing Nicki of being jealous or being a sore loser, and meanwhile, Nicki's barbs and many other pop culture commentators sided with her, emphasizing that her critique was valid. As the drama escalated, other celebrities and public figures also started weighing in. Katy Perry, who had her own feud with Taylor Swift brewing at the time, threw a little shade into the mix, writing on Twitter, finding it ironic to parade the pit women against other women argument about as one unmeasurably capitalizes on the takedown of another woman. See, this was a response to rumors that Taylor's Bad Blood was a diss track aimed at Katy herself. So if you couldn't tell by now, things weren't looking good for Taylor Swift. So how did she react? Well, everyone was shocked when Taylor Swift issued a public apology. See, she realized that the situation had gotten out of hand, and perhaps recognizing the backlash to how she handled the conversation would just be a better alternative. So she tweeted just 2 days later, writing, "I thought I was being called out, I missed the point, I misunderstood, then misspoke. I'm sorry, Nicki," at Nicki Minaj. To her credit, she didn't double down, she just acknowledged her mistake, and shortly after, the two seemed to bury the hatchet, with Nicki responding, "That means so much, Taylor, thank you." Unfortunately, the Swifties didn't really agree with Taylor's decision. For instance, one fan stated, isn't it blatantly obvious that Nicki was taking a dig at Taylor the whole time with slim bodies, and yet she ended up apologizing to Nicki? The hell? Nicki would then further clarify this when she was interviewed on Good Morning America.
Super sweet, and she apologized. She said, look, I didn't understand the big picture of what you were saying, but now I get it. So we're all good.
In the interview, she explained what happened, stating,
but yeah, I was just saying, I posted something on my Instagram and it just showed the stats of other videos that had been nominated previously, and there just seemed to be a little funny business going on.
On top of that, she argued further that Anaconda's huge cultural impact was enough for her to get nominated.
And therefore should have been nominated. I do think if it was one of the pop girls, they would have had many nominations for it.
Yeah, and you had 3.
And I think I got 2 nominations for Anaconda, for female and for hip hop, but it should have been for the year, and that's all.
See, for Nicki, the issue wasn't about her beef with Taylor. She was trying to fight for a community.
I think that we just have to have both images for girls. We can't have only, one type of body being glorified in the media, because it just makes girls even more insecure than we already are.
However, she didn't commend Taylor for apologizing.
Because it takes a big person to do what Taylor did, and everyone sometimes speaks out of turns. I've been there. Sometimes we do things and we don't think right away, or we don't investigate.
In fact, she'd even admit to having a conversation with Taylor to finally make peace.
Spoke for a long time. We were cracking up laughing on the phone. It's over, you guys, and I love you guys for supporting me.
And just as confirmation that everything was good between the two, both artists would share the stage just a month later. You see, finally, the 2015 VMAs arrived, and even though Taylor ultimately won Video of the Year for Bad Blood during the live show, Nicki opened the VMAs and then brought out Taylor during her performance of The Night Is Still Young. But on top of that, the two shared a brief moment, dismissing the rumors of any lingering tension. And for many fans watching, this is a pretty iconic moment in pop. Next up, we have one of the weirdest rapper vs pop star feuds, which occurred when Katy Perry and Chief Keef briefly disliked each other, and during their exchange, things got heated quickly. So as we all know, in this day and age, social media has the ability to amplify controversies. You see, the Twitter exchange between Katy Perry and Chief Keef began in May of 2013 when Katy Perry first heard of Chief Keef's song, Hate Being Sober, on the radio. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the song, Hate Being Sober is a song known for celebrating substance use. So on Twitter, she expressed her true feelings for the song, writing, "Just heard a new song on the radio called I Hate Being Sober, and now have serious doubt for the world." And unfortunately for her, Chief Keef is probably one of the few rappers that you don't want to mess with. See, Chief Keef came out of Chicago's South Side's infamous O Block. I don't think Katy Perry was aware that he's from one of the most notorious and violent neighborhoods in the US, and he didn't take this lightly. See, after just a few days, Chief Keef would respond with his own Twitter rant. However, his rant might have been more explicit and way more threatening than what Katy had to say. Chief Keef started by writing, "That bitch Katy Perry can suck the off my," but if that was enough, things would get dark very quickly. He went a step further, stating, "I'll out of her." On top of that, he also hinted at dropping a diss track, saying, "New song Katy Perry coming soon." So can you imagine Katy Perry's face when she was reading those tweets? Her heart must have dropped. So in response to it all, Katy Perry decided to issue an apology, writing, "Mr. Keef, I'm sorry if I offended you. I heard a lot of people guessing on the song and didn't even know it was you in particular. Actually, I'm a fan of your Don't Like video, to be honest. I was really just having a general opinion on our generation's desire to be consistently intoxicated. Believe me, I'm a lover, not a hater. X." And luckily for her, Chief Keef appeared to accept it, tweeting, "I get it now, don't worry." It's funny how two artists from completely different worlds crossed paths in a single tweet, but at the end of the day, both kept winning in their own lanes, as Katy Perry stayed a pop powerhouse, and Chief Keef continued his path on becoming one of the biggest drill rappers of his time. Now, these next beefs aren't strictly pop versus rap, but they're kind of the same thing. And starting off, we have B.O.B. versus Tyler the Creator. Now, hip-hop beefs are often sparked by rivalries, concerns about street credibility, or personal issues, but sometimes it's about something way deeper. See, back in 2011, one of the most unexpected feuds popped off between a chart-topping pop star and an up-and-coming rapper. You see, B.O.B. and Tyler the Creator's beef wasn't just about bars, but about the soul of hip-hop itself. However, before we talk about how these two artists fought, let's go back to the 2010s. You see, by 2010, B.O.B. had become one of the hottest new names in music. Bursting onto the scene with the smash hit Nothing on You featuring Bruno Mars, B.O.B. was embraced by both the mainstream and parts of hip-hop's core fanbase. In fact, even his debut album, The Adventures of Bobby Ray, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, and singles like the iconic Airplanes featuring Hayley Williams solidified his place as a pop rapper. However, even though some fans appreciated his versatility for blending rap with pop, rock, and R&B, others weren't entirely on board with his techniques. You see, while the radio loved him, some hip-hop purists were very skeptical. They saw him as a product of label executives chasing chart-topping hits, and it didn't help that his songs were filled with pop collaborations and radio-friendly hooks, which took priority over raw lyricism and street authenticity. Meanwhile, on the other side of the culture, a young rebellious crew called Odd Future was starting to make noise online, and at the head of this group was none other than Tyler, the Creator. His 2011 album Goblin was the exact opposite of what B.O.B. put out. It was grunge and revolutionary. For instance, songs like Yonkers were intentionally outlandish and designed to shock the mainstream. While critics were divided on his flow, one thing was clear: Tyler represented a growing wave of artists who rejected pop-friendly rap. However, Yonkers wasn't just your typical underground rap record. In fact, the song was dark and had a minimalistic beat. But on top of that, Tyler delivered a scathing critique of rap at the moment and would even take shots at B.O.B., rapping, "I'll crash that effing airplane that guy B.O.B. is in, and Bruno Mars in his goddamn esophagus, and won't stop until the cops come in." And since Tyler wasn't well known back then, many fans were shocked by the violence in his lyrics. However, on top of that, this eventually led to bad blood between them, as the diss came completely unprovoked. Nevertheless, it was a clear rejection of the kind of pop rap success that B.O.B. represented. B.O.B. on the other hand, who was known for usually being a laid-back dude in interviews and songs, surprised fans by clapping back immediately. Less than a week after Yonkers went viral, he dropped a response track titled No Future, aimed at Tyler and the Odd Future camp. In the song, B.O.B. flexed his technical rap skills and sent shots back at Tyler, rapping, "A sea of great whites, you are a dolphin. If I was you, I would be a little more cautious. I'm way too high for you to look at the future. Ain't looking promising for these rookies." See, B.O.B. had to prove that he was still a rapper, and he wasn't gonna let a young artist disrespect him without any consequences. Unsurprisingly, Tyler's reaction to No Future wasn't really what B.O.B. was expecting. You see, Tyler was just happy to be part of the beef. According to him,
the fact that he took the time out to record some shit just because of that one line from a nobody at the time is cool. So I felt like that. So it was a win situation on my side.
However, Tyler was also unsure about his first diss since B.O.B. wasn't really mentioned in the song.
I hate that airplane song.
Me too.
And the fact that he made a whole diss track just because some nobody said his name made me feel like I won.
Exactly.
But I didn't even take it as a diss because he didn't say no one's name or Odd Future or anything.
And this made him think that it was a subliminal jab. But he still chose to brush it off and feel good about it because nevertheless, he was getting attention from an artist who had the biggest hit of the year. On the other hand, Tyler also commended B.O.B. for stepping up.
Nah, he did. I was actually surprised. I'm not gonna front. When I heard it, I was like, wow, this is getting off. Oh my gosh. I've never heard him rap like this.
He's a rapper.
You see, in Tyler's head, the Yonkers diss brought the real rapper out of B.O.B.
He was spitting. I can't even hate on that. I've never heard him rap like that. And I think anyone else who's heard that song can actually agree that they never heard rap like that.
And after this, things cooled off quickly. Tyler didn't respond with another diss, and B.O.B. went back to releasing hits and collaborations with artists like Taylor Swift and Nicki Minaj. However, B.O.B.'s predictions were largely wrong. See, Tyler did have a future. In fact, he would go on to become a Grammy-winning, critically acclaimed artist with Flower Boy, Igor, and Call Me If You Get Lost, fully stepping into the mainstream on his own terms. See, it's no secret that Lil Nas X has made a name for himself. When Old Town Road first released back in 2019, it became the longest running #1 song in US history, staying at the first spot for 19 weeks. Thanks to the explosive success of the song, Lil Nas X skyrocketed to fame almost overnight. He even performed it at the 2020 Grammys alongside Billy Ray Cyrus, BTS, and the rapper Nas himself. However, the Grammys weren't the only place where he performed a smash hit. He also sang it on the BET Awards the same year. For those who don't know, the BET Awards are a celebration of black excellence in music, film, sports, and culture, spotlighting the achievements of black artists and entertainers across the industry since 2001. But speaking of the BET Awards, Lil Nas X came to their program a year later in 2021 to perform another viral song titled Montero. But this time, it was different. See, instead of the focus being on him and his music, it was instead overshadowed by his decision to kiss one of the backup dancers once his performance concluded. Little did he know, this was going to be the start of the BET Awards launching a personal agenda against him. Because once he finished performing, according to sources, here's what happened. At some point after Nas got off stage, one of the BET producers came up to me, and before I could even open my mouth, he looked at me and said, "That was really messed up." You see, despite generating billions of streams with his songs, and the numerous accolades and awards he's received for his recent projects, it was a pretty confusing situation seeing him get 0 nominations from BET in 2022. And feeling disrespected by the snub, Lil Nas X took to Twitter and sarcastically wrote, "Thank you BET Awards and outstanding 0 nominations again, Black Excellence." After seeing him get upset at the lack of nominations for any category, he quickly released a response, saying, "Unfortunately this year, Lil Nas X was not nominated by BET's Voting Academy, which is comprised by an esteemed group of nearly 500 entertainment professionals in the fields of music, television, film, digital marketing, sports journalism, PR, and more." And just to prove that they weren't quote-unquote blackballing him from the award show, they also added that no one from BET serves as a member of the Voting Academy. At BET, we're passionate advocates for the wonderful diversity that exists within our community, etc, etc. But in Nas's eyes, there was something more to it. See, Lil Nas X thought their actions were deeply rooted in homophobic beliefs. After all, hip-hop has always operated that way. Later that year, he took to Instagram to promote a new song, but it wasn't just any regular track. No, it was a diss towards BET. Once BET saw this, they quickly released a response saying that they couldn't have been homophobic since they invited him to perform Old Town Road back in 2019. They later added that nobody cheered louder than them during the whole performance. However, Lil Nas X clapped back in an interview, saying, "They said that no one cheered louder for me than them that night, but the BET Awards team was actually very upset that I kissed my dancer on stage and vocalized their discontent with multiple members of my team immediately following the performance." So it turns out they weren't happy when he kissed the dancer on stage. Unfortunately, he didn't only butt heads with BET, he also had a run-in with Louisiana OG, Boosie Badass, after the pop star trolled him by saying,
"So I've been working on this song with Lil Boosie, bro. I had this song with Lil Boosie for me to come out. Fire, ain't gonna even lie for it. Goddamn, song with Lil Boosie for me to come out."
So how did Boosie respond when Lil Nas X teased the 2 had a song in the works? Well, to say that he lashed out on Nas would be an understatement, as he took to Twitter and posted this. Next, we have The Weeknd and Justin Bieber. Although The Weeknd isn't necessarily a rapper, he's pretty hip-hop adjacent, so it'd be a waste not to include him in this video. Anyways, do you guys remember that time when he and fellow Canadian superstar Justin Bieber went song for song with Selena Gomez? If you didn't, here's a breakdown of how their short-lived beef went. You see, back in 2016, Selena and Justin had just broken up with each other after a 6-year on and off relationship. At the same time, The Weeknd also split up with his then girlfriend, Bella Hadid. However, tensions between the two didn't start immediately. It slowly ramped up, because in late November of that year, The Weeknd just had a massive W. He broke Bieber's record for having the most streamed album on Spotify. And if that wasn't a huge blow to Justin, photos later resurfaced of The Weeknd and Selena Gomez having a makeout sesh at a dumpster of all places. According to TMZ, an anonymous source stated that Bieber thought Selena and Abel's relationship was just a publicity stunt to promote their music. And if you don't believe that Justin Bieber harbored some ill will towards The Weeknd, here's what he said when asked about listening to his music.
Weeknd song. If it comes on, I can't listen to a Weeknd song. You can't?
2 months later, The Weeknd's hit song Starboy made waves, debuting at #1 on Billboard's Canadian Albums chart and Billboard 200, and was certified platinum 11 times. So he was set to perform the song at the Grammys. Meanwhile, Justin Bieber decided to boycott the ceremony instead. However, even though he wasn't in attendance, he made it clear he was going to clown on The Weeknd at the same time.
Favorite song at the moment? Starboy by The Weeknd.
Laughing at another artist's song like that is diabolical. So in response, The Weeknd hopped on a Nav song titled Some Way, where he dissed Justin, saying, "Think your girl fell in love with me. She saved my f***ing tongue game a remedy." So if it isn't already obvious, he was referring to Selena Gomez, saying that she was falling for him now that the two had separated. And while it seemed like The Weeknd had Justin's number when it came to Selena, just 10 months after the two started dating, rumors began to spread that they had broken up. And the reason for that, she allegedly went back to Justin. So if you were The Weeknd, that had to hurt. He even referenced the breakup in a song called Call Out My Name, where he called her out by singing, "Guess I was just another pit stop till you made up your mind, you just wasted my time." Over time, his beef with Justin slowly faded away, and he even greeted Justin's sister a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Jazzy. I heard you're turning 12 years old, so I wanted to reach out and send my love and tell you that I hope you're enjoying it with your family and your big bro. So yeah, happy birthday, and I hope I see you soon.
Now, you might be wondering why this next rapper is showing up in a video about pop stars beefing with rappers. Well, technically Post Malone isn't a pop star, but he also kind of is/was. And that's exactly what makes him such a fascinating and controversial figure in hip hop. You see, ever since White Iverson dropped in 2015, a lot of people have been getting confused about what genre Post Malone really represents. However, even in his early days, Post Malone's career was already riddled with controversies. You see, Post might have burst onto the scene with a hit song, but in the same year he released a music video for White Iverson, he found himself in the middle of a massive issue after an old video of him saying the N-word resurfaced. White rappers using the N-word has been a massive issue in hip-hop forever, and often ends badly too. In the now deleted Vine, Post Malone was seen watching a show called Too Cute with a friend before panning the camera to himself and saying,
"Yeah, we watched Too Cute."
Yeah, not great. Unsurprisingly, fans quickly jumped in and started to call him out, and they forced Post to address the situation. Post would immediately apologize on DJ Drama's Gangsta Girls radio, saying, "It's an old video, you know, but it's unacceptable and I made a mistake. I just want to apologize. I guess that's really it. I can't really say nothing. It was wrong of me." However, the damage was already done, and it only added fuel to the flame that he was just another white artist taking advantage of black culture. You see, even though Post became a huge rap figure with hits like Rockstar and Congratulations dominating the charts, many fans argued that he was just a white artist capitalizing on black culture. However, instead of diffusing the situation, Post only made it worse when he said in an interview back in 2017, "If you're looking for lyrics, if you're looking to cry, if you're looking to think about life, don't listen to hip hop. Right now, there aren't a lot of people talking about real shit. Whenever I want to cry, I'll listen to some Bob Dylan." And that's a pretty bold claim for an artist who had become successful because of hip hop. Unfortunately for Post, this started his long and rocky relationship with the genre. You see, these statements didn't sit well with the hip hop community. For instance, one of the biggest voices in hip hop media, Charlamagne the God, had to air out his frustrations, stating,
"I know what it was. Post had made these statements one time that I didn't appreciate because it was like, yo, he came up in rap music, you know what I mean? So he had the song White Iverson."
See, Charlamagne flat out disagreed with Post's comments, feeling the heat.
But like, not only did you come up in hip hop, but that's just not true.
Post would address the fans, like Charlamagne, who claimed he didn't appreciate hip hop, stating,
you know, a lot of people saying that I don't appreciate hip hop or I'm taking advantage of hip hop. My last hip hop album was hip hop. My next hip hop album is hip hop.
Unfortunately, nowadays, Post can't seem to say the same. However, back then, he was fully committed to rap.
I love hip hop. I make hip hop. I want to take this genre, you know, and stretch it so far that people who may not listen to it, and, you know, want to listen to the new artists whenever it's going on and just take everything for what it is.
See, that's how much he loved hip hop back in the day. But during that time, Post would also backtrack on his original comments, stating,
"But, you know, what I was trying to say is that a lot of people, except for a handful of artists, are saying the same shit. They're not saying anything super meaningful. And I'm 22 years old. I have not had all the life experience in the world to talk about the most meaningful. I just sing about what I have gone through, what's going on in my life, and what I want to sing about. Never once did I say that I don't appreciate hip hop."
Unfortunately though, this didn't really help his case. A lot of fans were outraged by his comments, with one user writing, "Post really makes terrible music. I'm still mad y'all gave this culture vulture a career." While others thought that Post just wasn't the brightest guy, saying, "I think that Post is the great guy and I'm convinced he wouldn't harm anyone in his life. But I just think he's not the sharpest tool in the shed." That's basically it. I think he just confuses his opinion with the general consensus. And you know what? The fan had a point. However, these allegations weren't slowing down Post at all in the moment. In fact, from 2017 to 2019, Post Malone was unstoppable. His 2017 album Stoney might have gone multi-platinum, but it was Beer Bongs and Bentleys in 2018 that made him a global superstar. You see, this album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. On top of that, singles like Rockstar featuring 21 Savage and Psycho with Ty Dolla $ign also topped the Billboard charts. However, Post would dig himself into a deeper hole by disrespecting hip-hop even further. You see, another main reason why he was labeled as a culture vulture was his hesitation to label himself as a rapper. In an interview with GQ back in 2018, Post was asked if he ever felt anxious working in a predominantly black genre, and Post answered, "I definitely feel like there's a struggle being a white rapper, but I don't want to be a rapper. I just want to be a person that makes music. I make music that I like, and I think that kicks ass. That I think people who mess with me as a person and an artist will like." Now, Post might have thought this was smooth and cool. However, this only added fuel for his critics and haters. But as it turns out, this wasn't the first time Post said this. You see, back in 2015, he literally said he wasn't a rapper.
I'm not a rapper. I'm an artist, you know. I don't make rap music. You know, I might rap, but I don't make rap music. I just make whatever I like. You can't really categorize it or put me in a box or anything, you know.
Right from the start, Post determined that he wouldn't get stuck in one specific genre.
I think it just comes out, you know what I mean? I don't want to call it a genre. I don't want to put myself anywhere that people want to put me in. I just want to be myself and, you know, keep working.
However, hip-hop doesn't work like that, and it doesn't like it. And in Post Malone's case, his rise in the industry made it very complicated. Now, saying that you don't want to be boxed into just one genre isn't really a big deal. However, with this come up and with White Iverson, a lot of people couldn't look away. You see, in the song, Post is referring to a beloved black icon, Allen Iverson. This massive track put him on the map, and it didn't feel right that he was enjoying the success of the mainstream by using a black figure, while other black rappers who might have been more talented than him struggled to attain it. But that's not all. You see, Post also leaned heavily on African American aesthetics. For instance, how could anyone forget the infamous braids when he dropped White Iverson? But when you ask him about the braids, you can clearly see Post missing the entire point.
Not even the hip hop culture, it's like, you know, the young culture, the young generation of people, you know? Like, I mean, they get mad because I have braids, but, you know, I like the way it looks. They get mad because I got gold teeth or whatever. I like the way that it looks.
However, braids in black culture are much deeper than that. But to Post,
I'm not trying to bite off anybody or anything. I'm just trying to, I like it. You know?
You see, the further Post opened his mouth, the more it looked like he had no idea about the very culture that had given him the fame and success. And if you think that that's bad enough, wait till you hear what Post said next. You see, Post only made things worse when he went on an interview with The Breakfast Club. During the middle of the interview, Charlamagne the God suddenly confronted Post Malone about his contributions to Black Lives Matter. Granted, it was an out of the blue question, and you can clearly see in the whole interview that Charlamagne the God was trying to push Post buttons. Unfortunately, his answers were still out of touch.
What are you doing for the Black Lives Matter movement?
What? I don't know. Is that a serious question?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
If anything.
I feel like, you know, and
see, rather than a true answer, Post just blabbered about a different story.
And that's funny too, actually, that you brought that up, because I have a song called Too Young.
Okay.
And you know, in Dallas, a kid named Christian Taylor got killed, and you know, a week before that happened, you know, he tweeted the lyrics to my song, which was like, it was like prophetic.
What was the lyrics?
I don't want to die too young.
Fans could clearly see the disconnect because instead of addressing the question directly, he shifted the conversation to his own personal story.
I
What
don't
that
know.
have to do with Black Lives Matter?
Nothing. I'm just saying that's an instance of like that, you know.
Oh, he got killed by police.
Yeah.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
But on top of that, he explained that he was just going to continue making music to help the movement.
I don't know. I just think it's cool. And then people, you know, the news seen it and everybody's seen it. So I don't know. I mean, I guess what I can do to help Black Lives Matter is I to keep making music. You know what I mean? I don't know.
But you know what's crazy? Post disconnect would eventually come back to haunt him in the following years. You see, after all the issues and hate he got from the African American community, by 2020, Post Malone's dominance had started to drop. He didn't release as much, and when he did, it didn't have the same hype as before. His 2021 rap single, Motley Crue, directed by Cole Bennett, felt like a typical trap song, but failed to make any waves. In fact, the music video, even though it featured other big rappers like Tyga, Ty Dolla $ign, Big Sean, and French Montana, wasn't enough to generate enough buzz, which was a big sign that things were changing. On top of that, he even tried collaborating with larger artists like The Weeknd and A$AP Rocky, but sadly, his momentum was gone, and it was clear that hip-hop had grown tired of Post Malone. However, outside of hip-hop, Post continued to gain a massive following. Back in 2022, Post Malone dropped his fourth studio album, 12 Karat Toothache, which debuted at number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart. On top of that, it also reached the number 1 spot on the hip hop albums chart. But even though it was a commercial success, it was less successful than any of Post's previous projects. And unfortunately, every time there's a new Post Malone drop, it feels like his music is constantly changing, and not for the better. You see, many of Post fans have started to believe that he peaked. His projects have been getting worse and worse since Stoney, and I found this whole project for the most part boring. I wish it was better as I like Post as a personality and his old music, but this is not for me. On top of that, even music critic Anthony Fantano rated the album a 3 out of 10.
And the album just sounds awful. It's just an awful sounding record. It doesn't sound good. Even without the reverb, the instrumentals across this thing, frankly, are bland and flavorless.
And even though Fantano felt sympathy for giving the score, he stated,
"It's so bland, it's so unmemorable, and it's just really lacking any kind of musical or aesthetic punch, which is sad and unfortunate."
Sadly, many people saw this as just the outcome of switching genres. On top of that, this would only raise questions with the hip-hop scene. For instance, did Post even like hip-hop? Or did he just use it to get famous? In fact, even hip-hop media podcaster Adam22 agreed that Post blatantly used hip-hop for his own gain, while he too was being accused of being a culture vulture.
My problem with Post Malone is that, like, it looks like he used hip-hop right until the moment where he didn't need it anymore, and then he said, all right, fuck.
He added that it was highly unlikely that Post would have any hip-hop tracks on his new album due to the success he gained in another genre. However, that would be a big mistake. According to Adam,
Bro, he should have a 4-bat song on the next album, or he should have a Drake feature, like just something. Like, he should keep his foot in the door to make it clear, yo, I wasn't just culture vulturing you before.
See, when Post transitioned from hip-hop to country, rap fans went at him. Back then, people absolutely loved him, but now fans were saying things like this. He was never hip-hop. He made pop music, worked with a few rappers, and dressed in the hip-hop style. Dude doesn't rap. First big album was straight pop. People were finally catching on, with one fan noting, he was trap when the money was in it, and now he's country because the money's in it. He adopted black culture when it suited him, and now that it doesn't, he's rejecting it. It's disgusting in my opinion, but you'll get flamed alive on the country subs for daring to suggest he's a culture vulture. And he probably should have listened to Adam's advice because all of this culture vulture talk had finally taken a toll on him. In an interview with CBS Sunday Morning, Post opened up about how these allegations were starting to affect him.
How did that feel to you?
It sucked.
Yeah.
I was a kid.
1920. How did you deal with it?
Drink a lot.
Yeah. Did you take it personally? Because
Absolutely. It's hard not to.
Unfortunately though, most rap fans didn't feel any sympathy for Post. For instance, one fan wrote, Post Malone crying about being called a culture vulture is so funny because he literally came into the game with braids and a grill, made an album, then poo-pooed on the genre before leaving to make country, LMAO. But the thing is, this trend of white artists using hip-hop as an entry point and then changing genres when their hype is over has become very common these days. And according to one of the most prominent voices in hip-hop, Post wasn't all too different.
No, because rap is an entry point. That's all. It's all it is.
So they don't trick me with what's in the bio. It has to stay there.
Gotcha.
Because you'll lose us.
Yeah.
But what you go on to become, totally different.
However, in this day and age, some black artists like Lil Uzi have leaned into different genres like rock or alternative styles.
Okay.
Uzi and Post lean into that.
Yeah.
Travis is still.
Yeah,
in fact, the panel even discussed Travis Scott's new style.
I don't know. It's kind of like his live. I'm talking about his live show, the way that he turns up live and presents it live. It's mosh pit, rockstar shit.
Rockstar shit. Have y'all ever been to a Travis show?
I did.
The main difference between them and Post Malone is they're still obviously hip-hop. You see, Uzi and Travis are still rappers, while he became fully committed to another genre. And today, most hip-hop fans don't even think of Post as a rapper anymore.
Nobody calls Post Malone a rapper.
They don't. A lot of people do call him.
They do call him. They do call him a rapper.
What they call Post Malone?
A rapper and singer.
I never hear that.
I never.
And Post recognized this. So what do you do? Well, fast forward to 2024 and Post Malone had fully transitioned into country music. Yep, the braids were now gone and in their place a cowboy hat. See, Post wasn't just some country artist anymore. In fact, he even headlined the Stagecoach Country Music Festival that year. On top of that, he also performed America the Beautiful at the Super Bowl 58.
9 times Diamond certified global superstar Post Malone.
However, if you've been following Post Malone for quite some time now, his shift to country wasn't necessarily out of the blue. You see, back in 2018, when he dropped Hollywood's Bleeding, the most popular song on the project was Circles, which was an alternative pop song. Unfortunately for Post, his move to country has the hip-hop world split. Some fans really believe that he's just another culture vulture who used rap to blow up, while others saw it as an artist who's just doing what he liked. However, whatever you choose to believe in, a lot of hip-hop fans still feel like Post turned his back on the very culture that made him. So was he ever truly part of the culture, or was it all just a stepping stone? Next up, we have Eminem and MGK. Although both Eminem and MGK are rappers, the latter pivoted towards making pop music following the aftermath of their beef. So what happened to the two and how did their beef begin? To preface this, it's really important to understand that growing up, MGK looked up to Eminem.
You know what I'm saying? That's my idol. And high school, my room looked like high school and middle school. I had a Eminem poster on my wall. That was the Eminem poster where he had like a great hoodie on.
So after the Cleveland rapper made it known that Eminem was both his idol and his inspiration, things should have been good between the two, right? Well, not exactly. You see, fans managed to dig up quite an unsettling tweet from MGK where he said, "Okay, so I just saw a picture of Eminem's daughter and I have to say she is hot as in the most respectful way possible because Eminem is king." Although he tried to do damage control in the same tweet by complimenting M, he still went out of line. Little did he know, this one tweet would come to haunt him for years to come. In a 2015 Hot 97 interview, MGK sat down with them to promote his album. However, the host could not stop themselves from bringing up this infamous tweet.
Was it just entertainment when you tweeted Eminem's daughter?
Pictures of that had came out, and I'm like, what, 20 years old, 21 at the time, and I'm like, oh my God.
And she's beautiful.
I said she's beautiful,
yeah.
But all respect due, Eminem is king. Yeah.
MGK tried to argue that there was nothing wrong with what he said, and that he meant no disrespect to his idol at all.
What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
So what was turned into? And is there a 15-year age gap where I'm a creep for that?
No.
I was 21.
But here's the thing, when you look up her age at the time, it'll show that she was only 17 years old. So I'll let you know if that maneuver was more than slimy. Although MGK tried to act and pretend that being blackballed by his idol was no big deal, it was obvious that he felt some type of way towards it. And a year later, he sat down with another radio station, this time Power 106, to spit a freestyle. At first, it started off well, until he began to send the first official shot towards Eminem.
I'm my favorite rapper alive since my favorite rapper banned me from Shade 45. I wonder, what now?
If you think that he was done subbing M, think again, because it looked like MGK was getting more and more sour by the day. Because of that, when he was a featured on a Tech 9 song, he had this to say: "I pop cherries and pop stars, you popsicles is not hard, popped in on the top charts, out the cop car. To remind y'all, just rap, you're not God, and I don't care who got bars." Of course, a lot of fans speculated that this was a sub towards the rap god himself, Eminem. However, instead of ignoring someone who's pretty far from his level, Eminem heard him loud and clear, and he came back after a 6-year hiatus to drop Kamikaze, which was a commercial success, selling millions and millions of copies, and was even crowned the best-selling hip-hop album of 2018. It also received 2 Grammys and 4 MTV awards while going certified platinum. But that's not the most important part. See, in the 8th track of the album titled Not Alike, he clapped back at MGK, rapping, "But next time you don't gotta use Tech 9 if you wanna come at me with a submachine gun. And I'm talking to you, but you already know who the hell you are. Kelly, I don't use subliminals, and sure as fuck don't sneak this." So things started to escalate between the two. After all, Eminem wasn't done playing around when it came to his daughter, and this bar wasn't just any other sub. He name dropped Machine Gun Kelly and even told him to stop hiding behind Tech 9 if he wanted to diss him. He got so heated that even Tech 9 tried to distance himself from MGK. Instead of taking the hint and learning from the ones who beefed with Eminem before him, MGK thought that he was ready for a challenge. He felt that he had the guts and bars to take on his idol all by himself. So not even a week after Eminem dissed him, MGK hopped in the booth and started recording a diss track titled Rap Devil. Now, when he finally dropped it on September 4th of 2018, hip-hop was shaken to the core. Not only because another rapper had the audacity to go after Eminem after all these years, but also due to MGK making a pretty good diss. The music video was dropped on WorldStar, racking up hundreds of millions of views, and right now, it sits close to 500 million views on YouTube. Even if you're an Eminem fan, you have to admit, MGK did a pretty good job. So many fans actually co-signed this diss track and dropped comments like, regardless of how we all feel about MGK, 100% props for actually having the balls to respond. 99.9% of them don't and never will. Still, this goes hard. Meanwhile, others saw this move as a surefire way to kill his career. Thank you, Machine Gun Kelly, for sacrificing your career so we can hear another Eminem diss track. In the track, he mentioned how washed Eminem was and how much of a bitter old man he had turned into over the years. Not only that, he brought up being blackballed and being banned from Shade 45 because of how much Eminem hated him. However, with the clock ticking, fans were waiting to see how Eminem was going to play his cards. A lot of them thought that MGK wasn't worth responding to, while others had the complete opposite opinion. So by that point, all eyes were on Slim Shady. First, he sat down with Sway in an exclusive interview to address the whole MGK situation. When he was asked if the disrespect towards his daughter was the reason why Eminem dissed him on Kamikaze, here's what he had to say.
I dissed him. The reason I dissed him is actually a lot more petty than that.
Okay.
The reason that I dissed him is because he got on. First when he said, I'm the greatest rapper alive since my favorite rapper banned me from Shade 45 or whatever.
After hearing his freestyle, Eminem took personal offense to what he said.
You think I actually fucking think about you? You know how many rappers that are better than you? You're not even in the fucking conversation.
However, him dissing him on a Tech 9 song definitely rubbed him the wrong way.
On Tech 9's album, and you start sending shots, and people start hitting me up, yo, Machine Gun dissed you, he just dissed you, he dissed you. I'm like, I listened to it, I'm like, did he really diss me though? Shut the f up. Shut the fuck up.
Funny enough, Eminem even complimented Rap Devil and said that the diss track wasn't that bad.
You haven't heard his Rap Devil response?
No, I heard it.
What do you think of it?
It's not bad for him. He has some good lines in it.
However, just one day after he released the interview, he dropped a long-anticipated response track titled Kill Shot, and it was safe to say Eminem didn't disappoint. He told MGK that dissing him was the apex of his career and that it'll only go downhill from there. This is it, as big as you're gonna get, so enjoy it, had to give you a career to destroy it. That's not all. Eminem also hit him hard where it hurts, making fun of MGK for trying to be him. Just because you look in the mirror and think that you're Marshall Mathers, don't mean you are, and you're not about it. So just leave my out your mouth and keep my daughter out of it. While he was at it, M also didn't forget to protect his daughter's name as well. And let's be honest, as good of his diss track as Rap Devil was, Kill Shot was the final nail in the coffin for MGK, quite literally. However, while everyone knew MGK lost after Kill Shot, he had other plans and still thought that he could come out on top with the W. See, in a Fall Out Boy concert, yes, a Fall Out Boy concert, MGK wanted to test the waters to see if fans still rocked with him. Spoiler alert, they didn't. While performing Rap Devil, fans could be heard loudly booing him in the background. When clips of him getting booed started to surface online, he had the brilliant excuse of saying that the videos were edited by M-Stans to make him look bad. Of course, people weren't believing it. Still, the M-Diss did give him a boost in relevance, as his streaming numbers went up significantly as fans wanted to check out the rapper who just dissed Eminem. But instead of being happy for the free publicity and getting a response from his idol, it turns out MGK was also in his feelings about the beef. See, an actor named Gabriel G. Rodriguez got all up in his face and told him that his diss was weak.
Because it has to be said, you're a pussy for going for family.
Hours later, he was brutally given the beats by MGK's crew at a nearby establishment.
TMZ, a man body slams G-Rod to the ground as 3 others begin to stomp on him.
After getting jumped, he wanted his revenge and even challenged MGK to a fight.
First of all, let's speak to these promoters. Let's make this happen. I don't want your money. Let me make it very clear, MGF, MGK, MGB, whatever. I don't want your money.
So, sending your goons to jump someone isn't unheard of in hip-hop, but doing so over an opinion about a diss track is egregious. This led fans to clown on MGK and call him a hypocrite. After all, he dissed Eminem for paying for security, and here he was having his goons give someone the beats. So finally, MGK sat down with the Breakfast Club for another interview where he openly dissed Eminem again.
You gotta accept it. It's like, look, you know, I even see today, the diss, it's the most popular diss
on YouTube.
On YouTube. Everyone wants to tune in to see the legend just got punched in the mouth. Everyone wants to see what's happening. Of course you're gonna tune in.
DJ Envy then asked him if he was gonna clap back at Eminem and respond to Killshot.
Respond to what?
His last.
Like on this.
Killshot?
Yes.
I had a clip ready. I'll tell you, I had a clip ready. I heard Killshot and I put that back in the holster. I'm like, oh, word. All right. He called me a mumble rapper, dog. I'm like,
why not hit him with another shot just to prove your point, though?
MGK then argued that Killshot didn't warrant a response at all.
Because this wasn't even on my path anyway. That like people, this whole thing with me, like, oh well, this just he's clout chasing. It's just like I'm on a tour opening up for like a rock band.
Fall Out Boy.
Yeah, in a completely different mind state than this. Thank you though for bringing me back.
The rock band opening he was referring to here was for Fall Out Boy, where he tried to perform Rap Devil and got booed incessantly, if you remember that embarrassing performance from earlier. Little did he know, his decision to diss the rap god himself and the tension that came with it was a double-edged sword. You see, even though he got clout from their feud, this would be the final time that MGK fully dedicated himself to rap, because not long after their beef, he would transition into more pop rock sounding music along the line. In other words, after Eminem embarrassed him, MGK literally had to switch genres.